News Weekly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 190 in a year 4. And, just to match that 90 at the end of 190, we are going to be starting off with Batman 900. This is a legacy issue. It is technically in Chip Zdarsky's run, or in the current Batman. It is Batman 135. And holy shit, do we have a lot to talk about. Now, I do want to come at this from an objective perspective, even though I'm not a fan of Zdarsky. I'm not a fan. But we have had some discussions already in the Discord of people that have liked an aspect of this book. And when I read this book originally, I expected people were going to love this part. My problem is the fucking story. That is my problem.
Yeah, so my problem with the idea of I called it a milestone issue in the Discord is some milestone issues such as Detective 1000, Action 1000. Coming up is Wonder Woman, I believe 900 as well.
Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are all pretty close. Superman's probably already happened, right?
Superman, no. It has not. Well, Superman 900 has happened. Yes, I believe it has.
Or would it be Action Comics 900?
Action Comics has already had 1,000.
Oh yeah, that's Rivals Detective. Yeah.
But I think it is Superman is going to be next after Wonder Woman. Then it's going to be another milestone for Flash, which I think is either 850 or 900. Because I don't know if you remember near the tail end of Rebirth, Tony Daniels did like 3 variant covers for Wonder Woman, Flash,
like the concrete
and Superman,
numbers, right?
And it was the concrete numbers. Yeah. So that can be kind of like your start of okay, that's where they were now compared to where they were and compared to now. You can kind of tell by the number of issues. Okay, this milestone is coming up. But with those milestones, a lot of the times they are treated either like an anthology issue where several people will write stories and just be like, hey, these are just mini stories telling about this character and why we as the fans love reading them. Okay, I'm okay with reading that because you have not only variety, but you have I guess that's the main thing is variety. You have a large amount of creators and a large amount of different types of the same character. Which I absolutely enjoy. Then you have the almost like annual-esque type of story where it's written by the same person who's writing the main run, but it's kind of just like hey, we're still treating this as a milestone, so it's not going to interrupt the story that the main writer is telling, and you get to move forward with it. And then also with the anthology stories, a lot of the time, and this has happened on both Action and Detective, the last story will tell the audience and the readers, like, hey, this is where the character is moving forward in continuity.
Yeah.
A little tease, which I do enjoy because it gets people hyped. And then you have Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, this is a milestone issue. I'm going to put it within my main run of continuity. And it's not going to do anything for my story or the character.
Yeah. I have been saying this on Twitter. I've been saying it in the Discord that Chip Zdarsky is not writing for story. He is writing for shock value and fan service. If this was an anime, we would be losing our shit. We'd be like, oh, shit, I can't believe he did that.
And that's like, I think I've said it before, even here on the podcast. There is nothing wrong with fan service because we are fans. We liked to be serviced.
Yeah.
But
that's not
when
it, but yeah.
when it comes to stories like this one, you need to understand that like for me personally, and this could be, I've heard several different people have different views on reading comics.
Yeah.
Like before you actually learn that there's an actual world or universe within comics, you're just reading comics just because, okay, that's a fun adventure, and that's a fun adventure, and that's one of my favorite characters, and that's another one of my favorite characters. You're not thinking of it as, oh, this book actually comes after this one, which before this one, and you're not connecting them. You're just having fun with the character, and that is okay. That is totally fine to read it like that. Then you have the stories that we are reading that's like, hey, there's a defined timeline that starts here, ends here, and these are all the in-betweens.
Yeah.
Chip is trying to use the defined timeline to write stories that don't matter in between them.
Yeah.
And it's just so confusing. Like, he wants to create characters that, of course, are going to make him more valuable as a writer, because that's what publishers love. They get, new readers. They get the scalpers who try to buy and resell comics. Like, no matter what, that is making money for the publisher. That's making money for DC. But for me, when I'm reading this, it has no value to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because nothing is happening to make me go, this is why I love Batman. And like, I cannot wait to see the evolution of this Batman that Chip has written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to stop myself last night because people are obviously sharing this on Reddit and like Batman and stuff. And I've gotten 2023 has been the year of juice, just not dealing with conversation. I just don't dive into them anymore because I know where they're going to go. You know what I mean? I just don't waste my time anymore. So, but last night I did start typing it out. I was like, this isn't getting nowhere. Because somebody asked somebody shared, we're going to be talking about it later. You've probably seen a lot of these things. The images are out already. We were going to do a full spoiler-filled review here in a little bit. But everybody's kind of see the images of like Michael Keaton's Batman and all that kind of stuff in this comic book because everything kind of just got put into continuity. Well, I think they were talking about Adam West particularly in this one because we see an Adam West moment in here and everybody's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And so they were talking about this on Reddit and somebody asked, hey, I've been curious about jumping into this run, but I don't know how I feel about it. Is it worth reading? And some people were like, well, if you like yada yada, like the failsafe arc was kind of cool and it was yada yada yada. This last one has been okay. The last two issues have been awesome, is what some people said. And then I was just like, I was like, I can give this person some actual insight. Granted, that's very egotistical to say that, but like, I like to provide a different perspective because I kind of hate when everybody's like, it's fucking great. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm like, well, I could provide an opposite interpretation, right? And what I was going to say was I was going to be like, depends on what kind of Batman story you want, because that's how I'm starting to like grow as a viewer now. I'm like, okay, who is your favorite writer? That's what I like to ask people. Because if it's like you like Grant Morrison and Frank Miller, I'm like, I know what kind of books you're going to like. So like that, I can already like, we're very opposite spectrums. Like we don't need our Batmans are going to be different. If somebody's like, I like Snyder and some of Tom King, I'm like, okay. I was like, we can have a conversation about a lot of stuff. We'll probably like the same type of Batman. And then if they're like, I like Tynion and Zdarsky, I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, why? But when it comes to this, like, I was going to tell them, I was like, if you like shock value, because there are some people that like The Walking Dead, right? Like every time somebody died in The Walking Dead, people loved it. Like, what the fuck? Like, spoiler alert, it's been out for years. When Carl gets his eye blown out, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh shit. I didn't know that was going to happen in the show yet because I was watching the show and reading the book at the same time. And I remember the show was literally like that week. The episode was coming out and I was reading the book. One page turn and I see the eye get blown out. I was like, no, that would have been amazing on the show. I was like, fuck. Never read and watch at the same time. But anyways, so like shock value is huge. We saw that in the last issue. Zdarsky cut off Batman's hand. There's nothing, as we'll learn in this book, means nothing gets solved instantly, but it was for shock value because that's what people are going to talk about. Like, oh shit, they cut off Batman's hand. Like, crazy moment. And as we have seen since issue 1, fan service. Like, Chip Zdarsky is serving that shit on a silver platter.
Yeah.
And he's just not really doing much of the story because he's like, oh, people love Batman, got to be a lot of action. You know what I can do in that action? A lot of fan service. And then on top of that, shock value. And people will remember my story. But he's not giving us a good story to remember. He's just giving us moments. And I think a lot of people, it's kind of like if you watch WWE, they go off of moments and not necessarily a good story. Yeah. And I think that's my biggest problem with Zdarsky. I don't have a problem with the fan service that happens in this book. I think had I hadn't read anything prior with Zdarsky, like, I would have probably thought this was cool. But I already know that the story's been garbage, in my opinion. And so that's what I was going to tell this person. And I was like, there's no point. Like, why even post this? I'm not even going to post it. So I didn't post it. But that's just kind of how I see it. I think it's come down to, we're 10 issues into Zdarsky's run now? Almost a year, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it is already over a year. He started on 125. So literally 10 months.
It was June of last year.
Okay, so we're heading into it. So
yeah, we're heading into a year. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would have to say. I think 10 issues is a good barometer to see if something's good. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but you know what I mean? Like, that's 10 issues. And that's almost a year's worth of content. And I just don't think the story has been good. A lot of moments that you will talk about for sure. And we have on this podcast, but I don't think it's a good story. And so let's just dive into it. And we'll hit every beat by beat, because this is the only book of the week. If you're curious on why we're starting with this milestone issue, it's the only book we're reviewing this week. I believe the end of Deadly Duos or whatever is ending this week as well.
We dropped that like at issue 3. So.
Yeah, that was just not something we cared about. I think Harley and Joker get married in that book, though. Yeah, I skimmed through it. Yeah, I think they get like engaged or something like that. I could be wrong. But I want to say that Harley had like a ring on her finger or something like that, which I was just like, huh, okay, whatever. But anyways, let's dive into this. So we know from the last issue, Batman got his hand chopped off. And Clay, you told me, because I had read this before, Clay, and I was like, you need to read the book. You just need to read it. And I tell that to Clay every time I read a Batman book, though. So like, he's probably like, all right, whatever, bro. But you said you hated it after the last panel of the first page. So like, what happened?
Yeah, so going back to the first page, the inner monologue, and now I need electrotherapy.
Yeah.
Like, and then like I'm just like, there's some things like, I don't know if this is supposed to sound cool in Chip's head or like in reading in, of course, there's a lot of people that still give even the Batman in comics, Kevin Conroy's voice.
Yeah.
It's just like, there's no way that sounds badass to me. And it's just like, okay, whatever. But like this whole thing with still like the red mask and this other version of Punchline, like this still gave me no reason to care about these characters.
Yeah.
We see a moment here where like this world's Alfred is like starting to finally get a conscience and like, oh, I need to save the city because that's what Batman would do and blah, 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 trying to save Leslie as well.
Yeah.
Like then the idea that you brought up, your biggest hang up on this first half of the book is, now I'm not sure if a lot of people caught it because I haven't seen anybody
talk about it. Yeah, I agree. I'm like, and I wanted to say that on Reddit too. I'm like, how are y'all praising this book when they tried to change? I'm assuming we're talking about the changing of a character.
Yes. So the idea, so we've talked about this plenty of times, not only in just regular conversation throughout these comics, but our viewer questions. People have brought this up. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, the villains or Batman. We've learned through Tynan's run which came first, right? We learned that there was a organization that I owe it, the designer like basically gave birth to a lot of these villains, and here we are told by Chip, the Joker was created from Red Mask.
Yeah.
How so give me your first reaction to this, because you told me to read this book, and when I finally read it, this was the first critique that you gave. But I want to know, like, what was inside Juice's head the moment you read that?
Oh, I wanted to go to a mountaintop and say, "Fuck Zdarsky!" You know what I mean? Because this is my biggest pet peeve. So what we learn is, and he did it so, like, oh my God, I wish he would have read the Clayface book to find out how you do like homages well. Because that Clayface book is, I think I could honestly say, probably going to make our top 10 of 2023. Probably,
100%.
You know, so good. And Zdarsky, what he did was he took the iconic, helmet taking off of, and Joker seeing himself in a puddle in The Killing Joke, the most iconic Joker book ever. And he tried to change it to the point where the Joker sees Red Mask in the puddle, and that's what makes him go crazy.
Yeah, so it's like this weird, and I'm going to make this reference, but like I've never seen the show, so people correct me if this is the wrong kind of reference. Almost like a Black Mirror moment where you're seeing the POV of the Killing Joker.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be Red Mask. Like the consciousness of Red Mask went inside of the Killing Joker.
Yeah.
But the Killing Joker is still in there also. And so they're having like a one-sided almost conversation to each other in this puddle for a split moment. And then we see Red Mask gets like disconnected from the machine that he's like connected to. And like, this is what brings the most fear out of Red Mask. He's like, holy shit. Like, I finally found it. Like, Batman, like, I finally realize, like, this is how everything comes together type of he has like his aha moment.
Yeah.
Also, it sucks. I absolutely hate this. The fact that Chip has such good artists on his freaking books. Now, again, it's a milestone issue, so you're probably going to get different variations of art. But from the moment it changes to from, I believe, this new artist that we have not really been loving for this arc.
I forget their name.
And then it immediately changes to Mikhail Janin. I was like,
Mike Hawthorne.
Yes.
Yeah.
It goes from Hawthorne to Janin, and I'm just like, you know what? I probably would have loved this arc a little bit more if it was always Janin on this art.
Yeah.
Because even this like gas mask Selena,
looks great.
Looks really good.
Yeah.
I really love this. The new design for Firefly on the next page with Janin is also looking really good. Like, the art is great. Like, I want to go ahead and give kudos to, of course, the people who deserve it.
Yeah.
And then we again move back to this idea, like he Red Mask goes back onto the machine, and there's actually a full-blown conversation between Joker and Red Mask. Again, they did not solidify and explain enough the idea of Red Mask and the speedster powers. There's like no correlation to the story, but boom, he just has it.
Yeah.
Like it still doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Multiverse. Like, that's just kind of what they're going on. So there's this moment. By the way, we're not really even delving on what's happening in the city in this book because it doesn't matter. Like, it like
really
Firefly shows up to protect the people from the Man Bats. Like, it's Selena nothing's happening. Like, it's just really just like it's a chaos moment, and that's
it. Chip is throwing chaos into the city to make the reader feel like there are stakes in this story. But Batman is saying, F all of that, I need to take care of this Red Mask character.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like giving pointers and like talking to Jewel and Catwoman like via comms or whatever. But that's not where the story is. Like, you can almost take that completely out. Take the panels that just has the Batman and the Red Mask story. And I think it might have helped a little bit.
Yeah.
To make it a little bit.
You don't care about anything else. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't even care about the Joker Batman stuff. Like, so.
True. But I'm saying for a consistent story.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I think he just relies on the action and chaos, right? Because he's not able to tell a solid story. But yeah, then as you said, Red Mask goes back to the machine and he freaks out and he's like, "Oh, I can't be the Joker because I create him." And I'm just like, fuck you. Like, fuck you. Because here's my thing. I respect and understand the decision that everybody would love, absolutely love, because I would love to do the same thing, to leave their mark on an iconic character like Batman, right? That's 80 years. I think something like Alan Moore, granted what happens in the world in 100 years, 200 years or whatever, I think Alan Moore's Joker is going to withstand the test of time because everybody knows that's an iconic fucking Joker. And maybe Scott Snyder's Batman will last the test of time. You know what I mean? I have said, I think over time, people will begin to appreciate Tom King's story because it's in 80 years, he did something that not a lot of other people did, right? He brought more humanity to Batman. He did different things. And I think people are just like really upset about certain things about that run. But I think he did something that a lot of people haven't done. And I think it's better to be, what is it? What's the word? It's not impulsive. It's like, it's like shocking, but not, I don't know the exact word that I'm looking for. But he's essentially, his thing was like, fuck, it's a word they use all the time. But it's like, I don't know. He's basically, his thing was shocking, but there's a better word for it. Furious, infamous. I don't think infamous is the right word, but something along those lines. So yeah, that's kind of how it goes. And I think that's what Zdarsky is trying to do here. But I think you said it best, Clay. Zdarsky is writing these characters like he created them. Because to disrespect 80 years of the Joker and think you are good enough to say, I'm going to create a character that created the craziness of that character, that is some egotistical, ballsy shit. Like, I think that's crazy.
Now, for us, we've talked about how you can add something to a story.
Yeah.
Like a small key element to a story that gives audiences and readers that full circle moment. You're like, oh, it's all connected. Holy shit. It's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
But in a comic form. You write something that was placed in some part of history in comic book universe. And then later down the road, you realize, oh, snap, that's because of what happened in this other issue, right?
Yeah.
That stuff is cool. I really appreciate it when writers do that because they can see these small little openings of like, hey, you could place that here, you can place that there, you do this, and it all makes sense. For Chip to do this, like, you already created your own Joker, the Red Mask. That's all you needed to do, right? But to give him the ability or the destiny to create not just the Joker.
Yeah.
He then claims to Batman, oh, my destiny is to create Jokers.
Yeah.
And that's how the rest of this book moves forward. He goes into this portal that is designed to make him or help him jump through the multiverse. Batman goes after him. And we'll talk a little bit about what happens before that, because he does have like a little bit of a nice moment with Alfred and all of that. But the idea is that Batman is trying to follow the breadcrumbs of Red Mask into the multiverse to stop him. And then you realize that every other Joker within the multiverse, you can think of any of them, was created because of Red Mask.
Yeah.
I
don't like it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
It's also a little convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of like we're big fans of Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Like timey-wimey stuff is very hard to get your head around sometimes.
Yeah.
But I just hate the idea of like you're stating that the new Earth that Chip created not only is a different Earth, but is set at a time before all Earths to create all the other Jokers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That why overcomplicate things, man? Like,
I don't know, man. I don't know what he's doing. I will say the crazy thing is, because I said we've had the discussion a lot inside of Discord of like, is Chip Zdarsky 100% in creative control? I don't think so. I don't think anybody ever is when it comes to Batman. I think DC will be like, hey, we kind of want this. And somebody asked, and you're going to have to actually fill this in when we, I guess, get to that spot. People asked in the Discord, I think it was Raphael, like, do you think DC wanted them to do the No Way Home ending? I never saw that movie, so I won't understand that reference. But I think I assumed correctly with the ending on how this book ends. But my thing is I'm like, no, that was probably Chip. But what I think DC wanted was all of the Batmans to be in this book. And then Chip went and wrote like how to make that happen.
Because here's the thing, like as I said at the very beginning of this conversation, when talking about milestone issues, there's a lot of times where you treat them as anthology books, and you'll see like the 1940s Batman, you'll see the 1980s Batman, you'll get an homage to Batman Beyond in the future, right? And so you get all different types of Batman along with the different perspectives of the writers writing them.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I want to know, did Chip have like a veto of like, nobody's writing this book except for me?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because if that's the, I would have much rather had a 900 with multiple writers and different types of stories to get those different versions of Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't mind what he did. This should have been an annual, 100%. Because it's I have the same perspective of Nightwing 48. It was just so out of place. I'm like, why do an imp or magical, what are they called? Magical imps or whatever they're called? Like, why do those? Like, that was so weird. And granted, I don't think I've really recovered from that on Nightwing. I feel like Nightwing's been going downhill since then. But this just felt really weird. So let's just keep going with the issue of it, because there's still so many more problems besides that. That is my biggest critique of it, though, is him just having the audacity to try and say that his character created all the Jokers. So anything you've loved from writers previous, his Joker created all those. I think that's just fucking outlandish. So anyways, hated that. And I'm so surprised people haven't talked about that. Also, I always do this, Clay. I've mentioned this a million times. When I read something in these current Batman books, I'm just like, how do I retcon that in the future if I write my stuff? I think this is one situation where you cannot reference Red Mask because you give validity to Red Mask.
Yeah.
So you just have to forget it. Like, because I can't do a joke of like some random hobo on the side of the street and be like, I created the Joker. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, oh, that's actually probably the real Red Mask and he's just old and crazy. You know, you can't do that. You have to just ignore this going forward.
And it's going to be a little bit harder compared to one very important detail that Chip does in this book in regards to Batman's missing hand.
Yeah.
Which I think you can't ignore, unfortunately, when it comes to this. The really big thing, as we stated before, Batman goes through this portal. The very first place that he ends up stopping, he turns around, there's a big jumbo screen, and you see Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Oh, let's talk about the Alfred stuff first.
Oh, the Alfred stuff. Yeah. Let's go ahead and go
because
there.
Because they try. I didn't give a shit about this.
I see where Chip was going,
yeah.
But again, there wasn't enough time for me to care about the city and the characters.
Yeah.
When Chip didn't care about the city or the characters.
Yeah.
You know? Like there just wasn't, and don't get me wrong, I don't want there to be like a 12-issue arc solely on this world. Because I think that would have been like, I would be pulling my hair out.
Yeah.
But like, there needed to be something more, or even probably something less, to get me to care about this Alfred and how it's going to relate to our Bruce.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there should have been a whole... So the thing is one thing Zdarsky doesn't do is he doesn't do issues that will focus on one character to tell the story. I think Tom Taylor does that really well. I think Tom King does that really well. And even fucking Jeff Johns can do that really well as well.
Yeah.
And they take one issue and they're like, all right, all the details people need to know about this character are going to be in this one issue. And going forward, I can have just little snippets and people will understand this character. Yeah. Where Zdarsky is just like, everybody knows Alfred. So Alfred loves Bruce. Like, they got a connection no matter through the whole multiverse. Also, how do you feel? Because we're going to read this moment in the future. This idea that every Batman can sense the real Batman throughout the multiverse.
That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I understand multiverse energy.
Yeah.
Like, there has been enough crises and enough technical comic book jargon to get me to understand the idea of multiverse energy.
Yeah.
That I can wrap my head around that. But just be like, oh, I knew that there was another Batman here because I can sense him. Like, Batman doesn't have the ability to sense. He doesn't have a sixth sense. You know? To give like just comic book characters a sixth sense around multiversal energy is weird. Like, again, you give one character that trait of like, oh, I can find and I can detect multiversal energy.
Yeah.
Cool. I understand that character. But when you tell me, oh, Batman from Batman Earth 789 or Earth 789 Batman can immediately detect when there's another Batman on his world because he can sense him.
Yeah.
No, that's stupid.
Yeah. I think it's pretty dumb. Anyway, so it's essentially what the conversation boils down to between Bruce and Alfred is all like, hey, we basically love each other, but like, your Alfred's dead, isn't he? Like the way my Bruce is dead on this planet. And they're like, I can't leave this planet. I can't go with you. And you can't stay here because we both got families and people we need to take care of. And that's what it is. They hug it out and they leave. That's essentially all it is. Also, and Punchline just gives up the Joker immediately. Because Batman's like, I know you love him, so tell me where he's at so I could save him. And she's like, okay, he's here at this location with these coordinates. Like, okay. And then Selina, which obviously they're not going to go back to this universe. I hope they don't. But this Selina pushes Bruce into the portal because he's like, you're not my Selina. And she's like, yeah, I don't like listening to people. And she essentially sheds and she's like, I have my own shit I want to do here. So she's going to be the kingpin of that Gotham essentially now. Yeah. But then we know we're going to get Miracle Molly Catwoman pretty soon. And I'm pretty sure they're different characters. So Bruce is going to leave a universe where a Catwoman didn't want anything to do with him to go back to a universe where a Catwoman killed for him because she loves him so much, but now is going to hate him is what I'm assuming. It's fucking so convoluted. Yeah. So Bruce, yes, as you were saying earlier, we go to this new universe that has Joker on this Titantron, and it is Jack Nicholson's Joker, and we see Michael Keaton's Batman. And all of these dude, I can't believe they released every single preview page essentially of all of these characters.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I guess usually when you look at preview pages, they usually give you 3 to 4 pages. Of well, actually, no. So what they usually do, they give you 5 pages. They give you 2 variants, like the main cover, the variant cover, and then 3 pages of the opening of the book. That's usually what they give you in preview pages. This gave you so much to the point where it's like, I understand that you're trying to get people hyped, but like, there's still like a lot of people that want to be surprised when they open these books, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's my thing. But when he goes, so you were saying on Reddit that like people were like, "Oh my god, they introduced Keaton's Batman." Like technically, I believe it was Dan Jurgens who did it first, or Tom Taylor. I can't remember who it was. There was because I think it was during the Dark Crisis books where Wally or Barry was running through the multiverse, and they said that both Dark Knights of Steel and the movie universes were part of the multiverse.
Yeah.
And it gave validity to the Earth is called Earth 789. And the reason why it's called that is 79 for the first Superman movie, and then 89 for Batman 89. So it was already put into continuity. This isn't Chip's creation or anything. He didn't put this in there. But because of the popularity of Keaton and the resurgence of the popularity of Keaton being in the Flash movie, like it's only like, okay, yeah, he had to be in this book. I like how, because I am pretty sure this is Jimenez. I like how Jimenez drew Keaton. I'll be honest.
No, it looks great. I mean, I don't think in these next few pages, a lot of the art is not to be complained about, because it's like Jimenez, pretty much all of it, or like a lot of Janin here and there too. But even if it is Matthew Hawthorne or Matt Hawthorne, whatever his name is, depending on if he's mixed in there, some of this artwork works. Like his artwork can work with the old like 80s books, can be really fit into that, right? Because we have like this one, I don't remember. I don't think there was a Joker, but like so Batman, what viewers and listeners should know is Batman's constantly getting teleported out of these worlds because he's trying to chase after Red Mask. And he's just basically like instant transmissioning is what it seems like into these new worlds. The next one he shows up to, there's a vampire Joker, and Batman gets saved before getting bitten. He gets saved by what I would assume is oh my god, Gotham by Gaslight, right? That's the one it looks like.
Now let me look here. No, so he gets the last panel of the Joker vampire. You see the red streak. He's actually being thrown into another Earth. So Batman doesn't save him. He only sees Joker on that Earth. And I just looked it up. This is from planet or Earth 4-3, and it is from the book called Batman Bloodstorm, which was released in January of 1995. So you don't see the Batman of this Earth. He gets sucked into the multiverse stream to be pulled into another Earth. That Earth being Gotham by Gaslight. Yeah.
Okay, and then every panel after this is just different Batman fighting different Jokers. We see the animated series version, which that was really cool. There's this red one at the very bottom. Is that supposed to be the Batman? That's what some people were saying. Because he uses the red, and there's like a lot of that red undertones.
A lot of the lighting and stuff. It says Joker had died. He returned to the grave. I don't know. I guess it might be. I want to see, because I haven't looked this up yet. I am pretty sure there is either somewhere on Reddit or somewhere on CBR or somewhere that's like every Easter egg in Batman 900.
Yeah,
and
CBR will have that eventually.
So I want to see if there's confirmation of this or if there's enough evidence to show, hey, this is the Batman.
Yeah. Quick side note. I saw this on Twitter. I saw somebody break down the deleted scene from Joker and Batman in the Pattinson, and they said it was the greatest interaction between Batman and Joker ever. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just like, if you ever question, oh, Juice, why don't you have conversations with everybody? I'm like, because those are the people that I have conversations with. Like, you don't know the fucking characters if you think that is the greatest interaction. It wasn't even good enough to make the fucking movie. Like, God. But anyways, so we go. This, I will have to say, out of all of the things I saw, this was probably the most hype when I saw it. When he gets transported to the Arkham Knight, essentially Batman, or Arkham Asylum, whatever, the video game version of Batman. I thought that was really cool. I was like, damn, he looks badass.
Yeah, so, and the only indication that this is Arkham Asylum Batman is the giant ass gauntlets that are on his arms. Like you could probably tell by the cowl or whatever, but like there is no other outside indication in the background or anything else. I think only fans of that video game would know, like seeing him being like, oh shit, that's Arkham Asylum Batman. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love how there's so many Kevin Conroy Batmans in this though. Respect to Kevin Conroy. He's the GOAT. But yeah, so like, and then essentially that's what keeps happening. Like next we go to the Batman Beyond universe, which I think is really cool. So Bruce meets himself again for the, like, I feel like they've met so many times. He meets his old version of himself. We see Terry McGinnis. We see old Bruce showing this Bruce like, oh yeah, like the Red Mask, we're following him. I knew you would understand, yada, yada. And he gets his first item because that's what starts happening throughout as he starts jumping through these universes and he's meeting these Batmen. He starts collecting items. And this old Bruce gives him a teleporter that'll take him back to his universe. And we find out why that'll be important later in the book. And so he jumps and like, you know, Red Mask, we see that the crazy Joker from Batman Beyond, which if anybody's ever seen, is it an episode or a movie?
It's a movie.
Okay.
It's The Return of Joker.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen that, go watch it. It's got one of probably the most talked about Tim Drake moments ever.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude. It is intense. It's crazy. Yeah.
So there's that. And then we get like another montage of Batman trying to chase after Red Mask with Robin. Then there's this other random. Oh, wait, but that's Gotham by Gaslight.
Yeah. So he goes back to Gotham by Gaslight.
Oh, he's fighting new Jokers. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we have, you know, I mean, it's not Kevin Conroy, but since I saw Kevin Conroy do the live action version of it, I consider it Kevin Conroy now. Which
is Kingdom Come Batman, and then we see the Injustice Batman.
Yeah, which it's crazy how they can always make that Batman look so bad.
I don't know. Okay, so I will say this art for Injustice Batman looks good.
Really?
I think it looks good
compared to what we shared yesterday when we were joking around. Yes,
yes, there are two.
I still think it looks bad.
I'll actually I'll share both of those images in the Discord after this podcast. But they're like the interior art for the Injustice comic. There are two scenes in particular that just do him dirty and they're bad. But look at the cover of the new Superman issue, Superman: The Adventures of John Kent, where it shows Injustice Superman, John Kent, and Injustice Batman. I think he looks good in there too.
You'll have to show me that one. I don't think this looks good because he looks like it gives me I can't draw feet guy, Captain America. It gives me that vibe because the chest is really wide and his biceps are huge.
Biceps. I will say this: it makes his face look really long.
Yeah, because he has like I want to say Green Goblin cheekbones.
Yeah, it sucks in his face.
Yeah. So it just looks weird. It might be the angle, but I want to see this one you think is good on the Superman book. But anyways, So Batman keeps jumping through until he finally gets to Earth. Well, I want to say Earth 66. Is that probably the number for it? But he gets to.
I believe so.
He gets to Batman 66 Earth, and it's Adam West. I love that they gave him pretty much a 3/4 of the page, and like he's like, "Oh, hey chum, every Batman needs a utility belt," and like so Batman gets his utility belt from 66, which I think that was fucking awesome. Then he goes to Frank Miller's Batman's world. This is The Dark Knight Returns. That Batman starts beating his ass, of course. And then he's all like, wait, I can sense a Batman. I knew you were a Batman. Like, we're mentally linked or whatever, which I think is just fucking dumb. But it's what happens. And then I just want to say, I fucking called this, Clay. He was going to get a hand. He Star Wars'd it.
Yeah, but we both said, oh, it's probably going to get fixed next issue. Like, it's not going to care.
But what happens later on is what exactly I called. Because I said he's going to get a magic hand that does shit. And that hand does shit later on and saves his life. Yeah. So he gets a metal black, basically Luke Skywalker. It's just a black hand, like a mechanical hand instead of getting the skin put on it, right? Which is probably what they're going to do on Gotham somehow. He's going to get a skin hand. Because, again, the question is, how does Bruce Wayne explain losing his hand? Yeah. Like, is he always going to wear gloves? Like, you have to explain that. And that's something Zdarsky probably didn't think about. He also gets a suit. Besides the new hand, he gets a Dark Knight suit. So now he has the massive logo across his chest. And we find Red Mask is in a pocket universe now. And it's just got like remnants of Gotham. And it's got a flying Joker shark.
And that's the Joker that he created.
Yeah. Yeah. So really shitty, really dumb. And this shark is eating this Gotham up. And of course, Batman's fighting the shark in floating space and whatever. He's like, I hope this utility belt's got strong wire. And he's using all of these things. He's falling down because the shark knocks him off. And his hands have spider fucking senses and can like retract. And he's basically Spider-Man now. And I'm like, wow, okay. Because they have this up close shot of these little, it's basically Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man moment where he sees all the little pricklies on his hand and he's all like, oh, wow. And then he starts crawling up the fucking mountain. That's what he does here to save himself from going into fucking Joker jaws. And of course.
And I before you go to that point, for people who are like, oh, no, it's the glove. It's the Batman's glove that does it. Batman even says, nowhere to grab. Here's hoping the hands features work. And then it shows the little spike pringly things grabbing onto the wall.
Yeah. He's going to shoot batarangs out of it, Clay. It's going to happen. He's going to shoot baby batarangs out of it. I'm calling it. And then the next thing, he pulls out shark repellent. And he's like, man, 66. You know, he doesn't say 66. He's like, this Batman's more prepared than I am. And he beats the shark with shark repellent. And then he knocks out a speedster. I want to point that out. A speedster Joker with one hit. And it's just over.
Now, again, people are going to argue. But yes, it is true. There is a moment in the very beginning where his energy is gone. He spent all of his multiversal speedster energy.
Okay. I didn't care enough at that point to pick up on that little moment, so I stand corrected. But he does get knocked out in one moment, which that's probably the most Jokerish thing that Red Mask has done. Is get knocked out in one punch.
Yeah.
And then it ends with Batman being like, I can't, this teleporting device that I got from freaking old man Batman only sends one of us to his universe. Like, I can't leave him out here by himself. But then that means I can't go home. And then out of nowhere, this angel shows up and he's like, and there's like this inner dialogue of like, oh man, I know I'm getting old. Maybe Batman doesn't always win. And that's why Batman needs a Robin. And fucking Angel Tim Drake shows up out of nowhere from the multiverse and saves Batman.
Here's the issue that I have. They wanted to tie these two stories together because, yes, at the very end of the last Tim Drake story that was at the end of the last issue, we saw that Tim was going to all of these different Earths, meeting all of these other Batmen. I really wanted to see another backup issue with Tim teaming up with these Batman instead of just the montage.
Yeah.
This, like, yes, you could say, oh, it ties together. It's all perfect. Batman is saved. Yay. It's just like, it doesn't feel like a, like, yes, you have a happy ending, but it just doesn't feel like amazing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I feel like there needed something more there.
I agree. It's
on
also,
Tim's part.
Yeah.
Because there was just too much Batman here.
Yeah. Well, what also sucks is, as we've done in the past, there's a lot of people that don't read the backups.
Yeah.
So if that, again, that should have happened in story, but he wanted to do his own thing. Again, you could have had one issue of Tim Drake doing everything in this story, right? Like, one issue could have just been Tim Drake going through the multiverse, telling that whole story. It didn't need to be a backup, but it is what it is. They want to do that for some reason. And yeah.
Juice. I just want to, I want to talk about this last page because
I hate this last page.
It scares me. Because we have learned that one of the main reasons why, in the beginning of this whole thing with Chip Zdarsky, that Zur-En-Raw was created because Batman was compromised, and Batman just didn't have the guts to do the things that he needed to do to be able to save Gotham.
Yeah.
What this last page is implying, and guys, this last page has a Zur-En-Raw version for every single Batman that we met in this book. Keaton, freaking animated series, Vampire, freaking
Adam West,
Frank Miller, Adam West, Batman Beyond, everybody. But this is implying that due to the creation of Joker in all of the other Earths, then Zur-En-Raw is then created.
Yeah.
So if people dig close enough, people can now say that Chip Zdarsky created Zur-En-Raw.
Yeah. I fucking hate Zur-En-Raw. I've never really said that. I don't think. Maybe I've said it on the podcast before, but I think the character's fucking dumb. I think the costume is dumb. I don't know why people love it so much. Maybe because it's Grant Morrison, right?
It's so wacky.
The hardest fucking hard on for Grant Morrison. Like, I've seen Scott Snyder and Tom King like pay homage to other writers before, but holy shit, I have not seen somebody in 10 issues ride Grant Morrison's dick so hard, because holy crap.
Well, I want to be perfectly honest with you. So, people are not going to be able to see this, but I am sharing my screen with you, Juice. When it comes to the costume of Zur-En-Raw, there's certain like ideas or pictures in people's head when they think about the character. This photo right here, Tony Daniels, I think, is one iconic photo of Zur-En-Raw, and people who probably know which one I'm talking about, it's him grabbing his purple cape, putting it up into the sky, and you see, of course, Batmite over the shoulder. I think this is one of the most iconic pictures of Zur-En-Raw that people love. And so, yeah, this was Tony Daniels' like freaking prime. This looks amazing.
Yeah.
But I also think I don't know the art on this one. It kind of has almost the like I guess Days of Future Past like esque like stance for Batman. Let me actually click here on the Wikipedia because it will say illustrated again by Tony Daniels. This is a Tony Daniels art piece from Batman 679. Like I think that it's just people like where they are created or when they are created more so than like the idea of him coming back. Like people love the nostalgia of like somebody that they witnessed, Like, because we've witnessed a whole bunch of new characters come into comics, and I think a resurgence of those characters can sometimes be really badass, really cool, or kind of lackluster.
Yeah.
When they are pulled off really well, you're like, oh shit, it's that one character from that one time. That's awesome, you know? When it comes to Zur and Raw, I think Chip could have had something. But with the idea of failsafe being really flat for us, it didn't hit properly.
Yeah. Also, in the backups, he tried to change, or he did change Zur and Raw's origin as well. Like, he showed how he was created. Like, again, another thing that he's like, oh yeah, I created this character. Like, you know, I think newer readers who haven't read Morrison stuff would probably think Chip created this character. So
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just gotta say, like, balls on you, Chip, for writing in this way. Because it's not good, but like shock and awe, man. Shock and awe wins people over. And I think that's what that's how a lot of action movies get through things, right? Let's just do some cool action. Nobody's gonna give a shit about the story.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. People go to see the ridiculousness of that movie. If you're going for the story, like, God, your standards are very low, because the stories are the most generic fucking stories ever. Bad guy shows up, good guys got to take him out. Cars go vroom vroom. Like, that's all it is. And spaceships. But like, it's just ridiculous. All in all, man, like, where do we go from here? Now he's going to have an event between Catwoman and Batman. You know, he's going to now create Catwoman somehow, and he's going to, I would not put it past him to get them to be married at the end of the fight. Wouldn't put it past him.
What would you say to that? What would you say to that?
It's going to be bad. I'd be like, yeah, it's cool they're together, but the fucking way we got there was complete trash.
But what if he gives you your Damian Catwoman moment?
I'd be pissed because that's my Damian Catwoman moment. Like, I'm going to write that. I want to write that. I'd be so pissed. I don't care, man. Zdarsky, the only reason why I want Zdarsky to stay on, and granted, I don't even need Zdarsky if DC were to keep this a monthly book, is the longer Zdarsky stays on, the more years I have to try to break into the industry so I can write on Batman 1000. Because I got 100 issues now. And that is what? Fucking like 8 years from now? If it stays monthly.
Yeah.
And if they were to go bi-weekly, that's like what, like 4 years? So if it goes back to the way Tom King was writing it, I got 4 years, and that's tough. But Zdarsky stays on for a couple more years or something like that, then I got a lot of time. Yeah. So but yeah, it's just some crazy shit, man. I am not a fan of this. I understand, and that's one thing I want to point out. Like, I'm not hating on the actual like fan service of it. I think that's cool. I think, you know, every once in a while that is fine. I think, again, should have been done in an annual. But for the most part, I don't think Zdarsky's story is good. And it's so weird I never thought anything could get worse than Tynan. And Zdarsky was like, hold my beer. And I don't know, man. I don't miss Tynan, but at least Tynan's book was always pretty, you know?
And the thing with Chip Zdarsky, like, I think, like Tynan, there is a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Because Tynan's indie stuff, people go crazy over.
Yeah, it was good.
And you read it yourself. Freaking Something's Killing the Children.
I haven't read that one.
Is a massive, like, people see that as like a new way to create comics.
Yeah.
And it's from Boom Studios. I recommend anybody read it. It's great. Chip Zdarsky, he did a whole bunch of stuff at Marvel, but he's also done indie work. He Sex Criminals. I think, Juice, honestly, crazy enough, I think you would actually like Sex Criminals.
I own Sex Criminals. So it had sex on it, so I bought it. So like, I actually, when I was cleaning out all my comics recently, so there is 2 different books that I would get confused on, because there's a book called Sex and there's a book called Sex Criminals.
Yes.
And like they're both, I guess, kind of goofy at times. So like I kind of thought they were the same thing. So I have both of these random series, but I think I have more of Sex Criminals. And so like I don't ever think I sat down and read all of them because I don't know if I had them in order, and I was trying to collect them. So I have a few of them. But I said Zdarsky's a good writer. He's a bad Batman writer. And I've said that many a times. Tynion, great writer, bad Batman writer.
Because we even liked the Tim Drake story in the backup.
Yeah. That's what should have been being written. Catwoman was trash, though. The Catwoman story was trash. Because where did it go? What? Where did it go? You know, it's like Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor, another great writer that I enjoy. Hate his Batman. Like some people are just not good Batman writers, and that's okay. That's okay. There's some people that can't write horror stories, right? And there's some people that can write great horror stories. Not everybody can write anime, but some people can write comics. Like I think that if you were to take an anime writer and try to have them do comics, I don't think it translates that well. Like, I don't know if they could write it as well because they don't get the inner monologues down as much. It's a little different when it comes to anime. I think they're both great mediums, but they are different. Right now, we're going to be talking about the writer's strike here in a little bit. But the thing right now is apparently a lot of people are saying like, yo, comic artists, if you ever want to work in Hollywood, do not write or draw for these studios right now, because you're going to be blacklisted. But I also, because Babs Tarr is kind of retweeting a lot of this stuff because I follow her.
Yeah.
And she also retweeted somebody saying like, hey, because some people were like, oh, is ChatGPT and all this kind of stuff going to beat out comic writers or going to take over comic writers? Like Hollywood, any Hollywood people that want to do comics, like, don't think that you can just, it's like writing a script, because it's not. And somebody was talking about how they're like, I actually tried to write some comic books, and that medium is so different from writing movies. Like, people don't understand it. It's not just writing storyboards. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much more to that. And
I'll be completely honest with you. I listened to a couple of friends of mine. They do a podcast, and they reviewed the season finale of Mandalorian season 3 recently. And their new segment is, and this isn't because they are in love with AI and they want it to be replaced or whatever. They just thought it would be really funny and really silly. They asked ChatGPT to write the season finale of Mando, and it was off the wall, fucking bonkers, stupid and silly and hilarious.
Yeah,
I almost wanted to use ChatGPT to rewrite issue 900 of Batman.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Just to see if it could. But then I realized when searching up ChatGPT, you had to pay money for that shit. I'm like, no, I'm not going to freaking pay like $14 a month just to look at this one thing just because I want to like throw a gimmick out there. Like, no. And like, I think, are we basically done with Batman 900?
Yeah, like, pretty much. I think, it's kind of over with. I think I've said everything I needed to say.
I just, my curiosity is, how are they going to answer the missing hand thing? Because yes, he has a mechanical hand, but Bruce Wayne needs to have a hand.
Yeah.
Unless they like have him get his quote unquote hand cut off in the public eye, which would be really stupid to put out this whole plan of, okay, guys, we have to get into a fight with somebody and my hand accidentally has to get chopped off, but it's okay. It's still mechanical. We can, weld it back on or whatever, but that's going to be stupid. But yeah, that's one of my biggest concerns. And, of course, I want Chip to get his head on straight for the remainder of his writing on Batman.
Yeah, well, that probably won't happen until September at the earliest, because isn't that when Daredevil ends? But he's also writing his own book too right now, so I just don't think it's going to happen. Like, especially if that indie book's doing as well as people are saying it is, he's probably focused on that. He's like, oh, I could make this into a movie. Like, I'll make way more money doing that. And I think it's sad that people use Batman right now as just a way to boost their careers. It feels like,
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, the only people that suffer are the like Batman fans, right? And some fans that love everything, they're not going to suffer. They never do. I would love to live in that world. But it's just like when you are a fan of Batman and you prefer good writing along with Batman, yeah, it just kind of sucks. You get these writers that are like, I have one foot out the door already, man. I'm just doing this for a paycheck. It's like, no, that fucking sucks. Anyway, so yeah, let's move on from there. Let's talk about this writer strike, man, because we kind of hinted at it a podcast or two ago about the possibility that the writers might go on strike. And the last time this happened, we got Transformers 2.
Yes.
So they have officially went on strike, and James Gunn has already said that he is leaving Superman Legacy until this is over.
Yes, that was our way in to talking about it. And of course, the biggest thing is the fact that the DCU is just getting started.
Yeah.
And I think it's already going to hit massive delays due to this writer strike. I've read some things and I've watched a lot of videos of people doing interviews that are on the picket fences right now.
Yeah.
You know, the number one question is like, how long are y'all willing to wait it out? And no one's saying, oh, until next week.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, like maybe it'll be done by tomorrow. Like these people are like, hey, we will ride this out until our demands are met.
Yeah.
In the Discord, I shared the demands and what was answered to those demands. And Juice, they're pretty fucking wild. The answers to these demands. There's some that legitimately were like, hey, we would really like this increase of pay by this much. And the response to that demand was, we can get a meeting together to talk about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, hey, we will consider that, or like, hey, let's change it from this percentage to this percentage.
Yeah.
No, their response was, I think we can hold a meeting for it.
Yeah, some of them were crazy. Although, do you agree with 100% of the things that the writers were saying? Because like the one that I was kind of weary about, I was like, I think like, because I think when you come into these negotiations, and this is probably what the writers are doing, right? You shoot high so that way you can give a little, right? Like
Probably.
you go overboard and they'll be like, look, we're not going to give you 10%. We'll give you 8. And they'll be like, all right, cool. Because we only wanted 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what you do. You shoot high. So your number that you're willing to lose something for is hopefully what you get. There was something along the lines of, because I need to pull it up, but they want more writers for more episodes. And I mean, I'm not in a writer's room, so maybe my mind would change. So I'm not gonna fucking die on this hill. But I feel like writers are writers, right? Like I feel like just because there's maybe like 2 to 4 more episodes, you don't necessarily need to bring on 2 more writers. Like that writer's room should just have more time to write. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel, because I also know that me personally, I wouldn't want to give more episodes to somebody else.
So yours is the episodic television portion of the negotiations. It says preserving the writer's room. Pre-green light rooms have a minimum staff of 6 writers, including 4 writers on writer producers. The post-green light rooms, this is what they want: 1 writer per episode up to 6 episodes, then 1 additional writer required for each 2 episodes after 6, up to a max of 12 writers.
Yeah.
Now, the example that they gave is an 8 episode requires 7 writers and includes 4 writer producers, and 10 episode requires 8 writers with it including 5 writer producers.
Yeah.
The counter to that was nothing. They rejected the proposal and they refused to make a counter.
Yeah.
And they refused on a counter on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the proposals that were given, and there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 18, almost half of the proposals they refuse to give an answer to.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That could just be a tactic to get them to the table. Like, I think each side has something, because each side is not going to get exactly what they want. It's just not what's going to happen, right? I do think that the studios will try AI before they make a settlement here, which that means we're going to get some bad movies and bad shows.
Now, I want to go ahead and let people know shows have already been cut episode count on for a lot of their stuff that are currently in production, and all late night hosting shows, so the late show, the late night show, like all of those shows have already voiced their opinion and said, hey, we agree with the writer's strike. And so they have agreed to just air reruns for the remainder of the strike. So that's pretty wild. But the AI thing had come up in a lot of conversation, and I think I agree with you. I think that a lot of these productions will attempt AI for their newer shows that are up and coming, that haven't really started production at all. I think that's what they will try to do.
I think if you're willing to burn money on something like that, you just make a show that is like dealing with AI. Like, that's just what you do. Like, the whole show is written by AI, and it's just meant to be about AI. I think you just do something like that. If you're going to blow money, you might as well. Like, just fucking be meta about it. You know what I mean? Because, like, dude, I will never forget Transformers 2. It's so bad. And I just don't want that again. And especially with the DC, I'm glad James Gunn is like, hey, we're gonna step back. We're not gonna work. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm hoping Zaslav isn't like, well, we need fucking somebody. Get him in here. You know what I mean?
So did you see that the number one, like, well, not number one, but like a big part of the argument when it comes to the money and all of this is that a lot of these large CEOs to these companies get paid way too fucking much. Zaslav's annual income for being the CEO of Discovery and Warner Brothers currently is $246.6 million. God
damn.
Yeah,
he doesn't need that much. He hasn't produced anything yet.
I'm looking at a lot of these. You have Netflix co-CEO at 40 million. You have one of the other co-CEOs of Netflix being at 38 million, Comcast being at 30 million, Fox being 31 million, Disney, Bob Iger only having 45.9 million. Like only.
Yeah.
But compared
to everybody else,
compared to David Zaslav at like $250 million, like that's insane.
Yeah, it's insane that he's making that much. But I mean, the wealthy always are like ridiculously wealthy, is what they say, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me. I do think AI is going to play a plan into this, or it's going to be they'll try it at least. Because if they can somehow make it work, dude, the worst thing that they could do is to go into production with AI being the writers and the thing be a success. Because then they're gonna be like, oh, we don't need these bitches anymore.
I just don't see, because I've seen people on TikTok and like I've seen like Instagram reels and shorts on YouTube of like people trying to like write 2-week notices with ChatGPT. And like the freaking, there's so many errors in what the actual thing comes out with. And I'm like, if people are ignorant enough to think like, oh, we just have to throw in the prompt and then literally just use whatever it prints out, like that's gonna be bad. Like,
yeah, no. But I mean, I've been watching this YouTuber, his name's Philip DeFranco, and he constantly says this is the worst AI will ever be. And that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Because some of it's pretty good. So like, we'll see, man. I do think that it sucks for DC right when they're about getting off the ground. I made this comment to Raphael because they were talking about it, the strike as well, I believe. And I was DC couldn't catch a break if somebody placed it in their hand. Like, it's just because they can't. It doesn't matter what happens. Like, we're finally getting to a good point in writer strike. And it's like, dude. So Superman was supposed to come out in 2025, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll be lucky if it still does. Now, granted, I think even if this lasts for 100 days, I think they can still meet that window because it's in January, right? Like, they would start production in January.
Now, I don't know all of the technicalities of like what happens behind the scenes for all of this stuff, but from the last strike, people have said 100 days did push them back 6 months. So, like, you would be like barely hitting it, if it lasted only 100 days.
Yeah. I would just be shocked if James Gunn just isn't working on anything.
Now, if anybody wants to go out there, because there's a long list, there is actually a Q&A out there on Twitter showing what writers are able to do and what they are not able to do during the strike when it comes to work. So if y'all are curious, y'all can just look that up. I can probably find it and put it in Discord. But yeah, it is wild. And like my big thing was like, how do these people like make their bill, like pay their bills and make a living during this time, you know?
Yeah, I have no idea, man. I think the writer for SpongeBob said something on Twitter and was saying Hollywood wants us to go back to writer's room. When I first started on SpongeBob, I was working like I was getting paid a day rate because apparently that's what they want. Hollywood wants a day rate. And in the first year that he worked on SpongeBob, he made $14,000. That's what he was saying he made. And living in LA, like, holy shit. Like, I'm assuming he was living in LA. Like, that sucks. Like, granted, the first season of SpongeBob was when I was a child. So, like, that was a long time ago. But still, like, that's kind of crazy. And he also said, like, I didn't know if I was going to work the next week, every week. Like, it could have just been my last day because it was a day rate. Like, that's not what we want. And so, yeah, I totally understand. I think everybody wants job security, right? Like, everybody wants to know that they're going to get a next paycheck. And so I understand why they need to go on strike. And if I was in the industry, I'd be supporting it too, right? I would hope that I'm not, one of the struggling artists at the time, because that's really got to suck. I guess you got to go be a waiter or something. I mean, a lot of them already were waiters before, right? But I'm curious because I do think it's easy for a lot of people that have had success in Hollywood to be like, we're going on strike. But you're not like, if a studio head comes to you and they're like, hey, you new guy, you want to write a fucking blockbuster movie? And it sucks because like that's an opportunity you probably would never get. But if you take it, you're like blacklisted from everybody else because you took that job. You know what I mean? And there's going to be people that do it. And be like, yeah, fuck it. Like, can you imagine how, like, if David Zaslav has like a daughter or son that's been wanting to be a screenwriter? He's like, hey, fucking write me up something and I'll pay you like $10,000 or whatever. It's like, Dad, my allowance is $2 million a month. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? 10 G's ain't shit. But yeah, I don't know. It would be wild, but we'll see what happens, man. It does suck. I just hope it doesn't go 100 days. I hope somebody from back in the original writer strike that was 15 years ago is like, yo, y'all know how much we lost last time, right? And like, it's worse now. Like, we're going to lose bajillions of dollars. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad James Gunn is sticking to his guns, though. No pun intended. And being like, no, I support writers, and that's what we're going to do. Because he said he wants all these new movies to have heart, to have like good writing and stuff like that. And you need writers to do that. So if he's got to do that. Now, I did read an article that said that Safran is going to keep doing what he needs to do. So, like, James Gunn has just given all the power to Safran for now. So,
that's scary.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means. But I mean, Safran's not a writer or anything. He's just doing all the business shit that needs to be done, right? Like, oh, we need to hire an actor. We're going to do that, yada, yada. Because, like, does the writer's strike affect actors? I would not think so, right?
No. But there is a lot of actors that were once writers and are still a part of the guild.
Yeah.
So famously, anybody who watches Ted Lasso, there is a character named Roy Kent, which is like the fan favorite of the show. He started out as a writer. And I believe he has written for other shows as well. And he has told this story before, but like he was like writing the script and he's like, oh shit, I think this character is me. And then like did an audition tape and then got the role. Nice. So there has been plenty of people like that. A lot of people from SNL start off as writers, get onto the show, and then move on to an acting career. So like I think a lot of the actors will support the strike and possibly like either be out there on the picket fences some days and then also just not work on some days. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna work, but we'll keep you up to date on it and see if there's any developments. But moving on to more, there's no telling if this is ever gonna happen now with the writer's strike, but Elseworld news and possible people being offered jobs news. So James Gunn did come out. Somebody asked James Gunn about what is it, Coates, or what is the guy, Danny Coates? No,
it's I forgot how to pronounce his first name.
But
Ta-Nehisi Coates, or
something like that. I'm not too sure. We'll find that name. The Superman movie that is supposed to be now. Was this supposed to be the Val Zod one or the Black Clark Kent movie?
It's the Black Clark Kent movie. This is the Ta-Nehisi Coates. It's Ta-Nehisi. Coates. This is the like Black Clark Kent set in like World War I or World War II movie. Yeah.
Okay. Apparently James Gunn has read the script and he says, yeah, if things work out properly, I think it could make a good Elseworlds movie.
No, I think he said that he hasn't read the script.
Oh, really? I thought he had read it.
Yeah, he says here, that's not
could have been wrong.
Let me try to see if I can find it. But I pretty sure
I put it in the Discord, did I not? Oh no, this is a writer's strike.
Yeah, you did put it in. The quote is, I haven't read the script, and if the timing is right, that could absolutely happen. It would be an Elseworlds tale like Joker.
Yeah. My pessimistic brain is all like basically saying that ain't gonna fucking happen. But it could technically.
Yeah.
But it's not. Which I don't think it should. Unless it was like something really bad. Again, like you have two black Supermen right there. Why do you need it? Why does it need to be Clark Kent?
For me, I get the idea of like wanting to push an Elseworld story because of the popularity of Joker, because of how much the Joker made them. It only makes sense. Hey, if we did it with the villain, look what we could possibly do with a hero.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, what's in right now? What can we change? What can we make it more modern? I get all that. I understand why on paper this sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
For me, I would really like to see Val Zod. I would really like to see other Elseworld stories that have been within the comic book universe that people I know would love to see in live action. You know?
Yeah. Like, I am curious. Go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, just randomness, like within like Batman 900 that we just talked about, Vampiric Batman, Elseworld story, live action. Like, I think that would be nuts for people to be like, oh shit, you can go in like hard R horror story, and then boom, vampires. I think it would sell.
You said hard R, and I was like, whoa, where are you trying to get with that? Like, holy shit. I don't know, man. It's interesting. if they're first of all, I just don't know. The Clark Kent part is my biggest issue with it. Like, you can do Val Zod and stuff like that, because I feel like if you're doing a World War I movie and it's a Superman that is a person of color, there's going to be racial undertones. There has to be.
And I think that's one of the reasons why they want to do it. Like,
but why Clark Kent? That seems like a Kansas white boy name. You know what I mean?
Oh, it very much does. And for me, like, I've seen this implemented also. Like, people of color have voiced their opinions on Twitter. I'm not going to say that I represent that, because I clearly don't. But I've seen the argument made of like, oh, we've seen these types of movies in 12 Years a Slave. Like, we've had that wave of movies before. Like, we've already had the sad times. Let's go with the good times, you know?
Yeah.
And I would totally be okay with a story with heart, a story that has these racial undertones to teach people a lesson. Like, I get that Saturday morning special type of idea.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. Like, for me, the last war movie we saw, 1917 was the last war movie
that you and I both saw. Yeah,
I think so.
There's been plenty since, but
really,
yeah, dude, that On the Western Front just won an Oscar.
I don't even know what that movie is.
Yeah, well, it's about being on the Western Front. That's what the movie's about. But yeah, that won an Oscar. I forgot who directed it. But shit. Also, did Dunkirk come out after 1917 or before?
Before.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a movie there's a war movie every year that wins an Oscar.
That's because
it is, and people, it's history, right? People will always. That's why there's always like it feels like there's always an Abraham Lincoln movie that comes out every year. And also like movies that have to do with slavery, right? Like American history always like, oh, it's like, we got to give an Oscar to that. It's all like, do you like, we don't need to all the time. I mean, freaking Will Smith was apparently in one, right? Chris Rock made a joke about it.
Oh yeah.
So like, there's that. There's just plenty of movies that are happening like that. My thing is just here. I think this is my biggest problem. One, obviously the name, but it's two is I feel like we know how the internet is, right? The internet's already, we have people in our Discord that don't like race swapped characters. You know what I mean? And my thing is I feel like you're setting that character up to fail when you don't need to. Like, you have a President Superman, because like, imagine President Superman going to fight in World War I. That is cool. Yeah. I'd be down with that. Val Zod, same origin if I'm not mistaken, right? Falls to Earth, kind of all that shit.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know, or similar. You could, even if you wanted to switch it, like just name him Val Zod and give him the Clark Kent story. Like, I'm fine with that, because then it's like, oh yeah, that's Val Zod. Like, I know Val Zod. And you give him the Val Zod suit. You'll make him handsome by giving him Michael B. Jordan. That same story. And he goes and fights in World War I. Like, that's awesome. Granted, it's going to be like Dr. Manhattan just fucking everything up, personally. So it's not going to be that exciting of a story, in my opinion. And I also, again, I think that people would be scared, one, because he would be a person of color. People are still scared of people of color today, unfortunately. And he's a Superman. So like, although somebody like, it's very hard for me to like, how's that going to be a hopeful story? You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like, because if we're doing World War I, when you do period pieces, for the most part, you usually bring what happened during that period, and people of color weren't well liked.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand how you make it a hopeful story.
Unintentionally making Watchmen.
Mm-hmm. Right? Right. And if you're Snyder fans, it's just like, oh yeah,
dude. I think we're gonna bring this story up, the whole Ben Affleck thing.
Yeah.
But there was a Q&A at SnyderCon.
I saw that.
And
the Jeff Johns thing?
Somebody yelled out, "Hey, so it wasn't yelling it out. It was an actual question. They're like, "Hey, so with you making Watchmen and then making your Justice League movie or trilogy, was Doomsday Clock your ultimate plan?"
Yeah,
was the question, and everybody was like, "Wait, what?" and even Zack Snyder was like, I don't know if I'm familiar with. Wait, was that the Jeff Johns book?
Yeah.
And like apparently, like producers that are like basically best friends with
yeah, I saw that.
Zack
It's
Snyder.
like one
They
of the
like
special effects guys. Yeah.
they like walked off stage or whatever and
Yeah.
stuff. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Well, what's hilarious is the guy that asked the question seems very sincere about like Doomsday Clock is a good story, which it is.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you suck Zack Snyder's dick. That Doomsday Clock is a great fucking story.
Yeah.
And so like, and that's the thing that I just don't understand is Snyder fans, because of what happened, whether everything that, you know, has said that is out there is true about Jeff Johns, you can't take away him being a good writer. He is a better writer than Zack Snyder. Like, hands down, anybody that would argue that is missing half a brain. Because it's just what Zack Snyder, I'm pretty sure, has taken stuff from Jeff Johns' stories previously without even knowing it. Like,
I believe so, yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know. So yeah, we'll get into that because that movement's never gonna die. And it's just like Jesus. But moving on from the possible Elseworld story, this is the next biggest thing, which we had some disagreements about in the Discord, is I posted something that I saw on CBR, because again, CBR is the general audience website. And it's this rumor, and this is CBR's words, that Margot Robbie has been offered a role in the MCU, and people are saying that it's for Sue Storm from the Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. And Clay has posed the question, oh, well, this could also go along with the rumors that she's no longer going to be Harley, which were fueled by James Gunn deleting a tweet after he said he's definitely going to be working with Margot Robbie again.
Yeah.
So let's get into this whole speculation. First of all, before we get into the Harley Quinn stuff, would you want her as Sue Storm?
So here's the thing that I'm very disappointed about when it comes to the casting of the Fantastic Four. Very early rumors had said that the Fantastic Four was going to be a mixed race of characters.
Okay.
That I believe Sue and Johnny were going to be the same race because they are brother and sister. And then Reed would be a different race from them, and the Thing, Ben Grimm, would be a different race from them. So it was going to be a completely mixed race of cast of characters. And since then, we had rumors of like Isa Gonzalez being Sue Storm, Diego Luna being, of course, the famously made Rogue One, or he was in Rogue One. He's in Andor. He was rumored to be Reed. There was other names thrown out there for Reed as well. And now it looks like every single character in the Fantastic Four is going to be white.
Yeah.
So that's what that's what pisses me off more so than anything. But it looks like, and I'm not breaking any news here. This is the rumor, and it's getting more solidified by the day, that Adam Driver will be Reed Richards. And I think there is 3 names now for Sue Storm. There is Margot Robbie, Kirby, what's her name, that was rumored to be Catwoman all those years ago.
Ana de Armas?
No.
Isa Gonzalez?
No. The girl that is she was in Hobbs and Shaw.
Isa Gonzalez.
No,
the white one? The sister.
Vanessa Kirby.
Vanessa Kirby. Okay, yeah.
So Vanessa Kirby is also rumored to be Sue Storm. And then Julie something.
No idea.
I know she was also in a Star Wars movie. I can't remember her name. Shit. Either way, there's 3 names. Out of the 3 with Adam Driver, I think it would be very interesting to see Margot Robbie in an MCU movie. I think that so far, in almost everything that I've seen Margot Robbie in, she is a hit. Like, I don't think I've ever seen her in a bad role.
Yeah, I mean, there was that one movie with the Tina Fey stuff that I don't think has got as much traction as people wanted. Yeah, she was in a movie with Tina Fey that they were in the desert or something like that. I don't remember.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why they just didn't go with John Krasinski and his wife. Like, that was already a fan-made hit. Like, you could have went with both of them. And they're, like, extremely popular. So, like, I don't understand why they don't go with that. And then you could have just cast the other two characters. Granted, I guess his, her, since she's white, the Human Torch would have to be white too. I mean, but everybody talks about it doesn't matter, right? You can just change it. So they could have been a biracial family. But yeah, I don't know. Adam Driver, I just don't get the vibe that he should be Reed, in my opinion. So not with that long ass hair. He better get a haircut.
So Reed Richards is very disconnected and very like monotone and flat sometimes in the comics. And I feel like Adam Driver can definitely deliver that. When it comes to
he just looks so good in the suit, you know.
Well, in the big rumor of him and Emily Blunt, his wife, being Fantastic Four, Emily Blunt said in several interviews, she was like, I never want to be in a superhero movie. Like, I don't want to do that stuff.
That sucks.
She flat out just said it. Whereas John Krasinski at the time, he had to keep it secret because he was the cameo in Multiverse of Madness. Spoilers for, that movie that came out last year.
She was Mary Poppins. Telling me that's not a superhero?
I mean,
spoonful of sugar, man. Dancing with penguins. She flies with an umbrella. She's essentially related to Penguin. Like, come on.
But he was like kind of, dodging the question, not really saying anything, and she was just like, no.
Yeah.
Never. Not doing it. Whatever. And I would be okay with Krasinski like reprising the role. But Margot Robbie being in the role, I think it would be interesting. But I also need to know who's playing Johnny. And the rumor right now is the homeboy getting really popular in Hollywood right now, Austin Butler, who played Elvis. He is now in the sequel to Dune currently. The first trailer just dropped while we're recording this right now.
Yeah.
He's gotten pretty big. Like, I'm pretty sure he won an award for Elvis, several awards for Elvis.
Yeah.
So he's the big name for Johnny Storm right now. He's my pick for Gambit.
Can you do a Cajun voice though? If Gambit doesn't have a Cajun voice, it's a huge miss.
If he can do an Elvis impersonation, I think he can do a Cajun accent.
Very interesting. But yeah, so to be honest, I don't give a shit about the MCU news. I only care about Margot Robbie continuing to be Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
So you think she is done?
I think that if this is true, because there's two ways. If this is true, this means two things. Either she is done with Harley Quinn, she's moving the MCU, or she rejected the offer, and she still has a possibility to be Harley Quinn. Those are the only two Harley Quinn. Those are the only two options. Yeah. But I think with Margot Robbie, she has evolved in the Hollywood scene. She is now a producer. She is now putting investment in a lot of Hollywood productions, and her future. And so, what way to do that? Oh, put her name out there more, put her face out there more, get more money, so that way she can provide that income to her other projects. And I think the MCU would probably be a good paycheck for her.
I don't disagree with the paycheck. I disagree with it being a benefit to her. And the reason why is the MCU is not going to give her like directorial credit or anything like that on any of those projects. I think in DC, they would give that to her. They'd be like, oh, you want to direct an episode of, let's say, Peacemaker? Done. You want to be a producer on these big movies? Done. Every Harley Quinn movie going forward, you're an executive producer? done. I think they would give her that. And I think maybe that's the reason why she stays on. And I just don't think that she gives up Harley Quinn when she has been trying so hard about wanting to do the Ivy love story on the big screen. I actually think she wants to do that because that, it supports representation. It gives her something else to do, and it broadens the universe of Harley Quinn. And Margot Robbie also said, granted, people can change over time, but she said she'd be down to play Harley forever. So maybe she's not going to do it for a while, but I think it would just be really bad for them to give up on, not try to get her to come back for Harley Quinn. You know what I mean? We already know from what people are saying about this Flash movie. I literally heard the special effects guy, I think that was special effects guy, say that this Flash movie is going to make, and I quote, people forget about Ezra
This is
Miller's
a wild quote.
Criminal activity.
That is the most unhinged fucking quote
Yeah.
I think anybody has ever said about any production ever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I read that. I was like, this is not the way to go, dude.
It's crazy, but I kind of said people are not going to give a fuck about that stuff either. So, I understand, him, because he worked on it. It's different for him saying it than me saying it. I will say that. But I don't think he's wrong. I do think there are going to be people that do not give a fuck. And they are just going to be like, that movie was awesome. Bring back Ezra Miller as the Flash. You know what I mean? I think if Ezra Miller can come back as the Flash, anybody can come back besides Cavill and Ben Affleck, obviously.
Now, James Gunn has said that we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
You need to understand that as well.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going to happen.
Wait and see how much money it brings in is what he's saying. Also, I'm seeing that Zachary Levi cannot keep his mouth shut. He's saying some other shit now. I don't know, something about are you guys ready for something? And he was like, oh, here it goes, about people getting chips put into them now and stuff like that to be tracked and whatever. And I'm just like, dude, come on, man. Maybe we do get a new Shazam. Maybe that's just what we need. Keep all the kids and recast Zachary Levi. Maybe we do that. I'd be down with that. Let's give dude? It fucking what's his face? Chris Pratt. New Shazam.
Stop. No.
Hey, if he could be an Italian guy that's supposed to be saving a princess,
dye his hair black, black as Zachary Levi did for the first movie. Where it almost looked like fake and shit. Oh God.
Yep, that'd be so crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think Margot Robbie's done. I just think that they don't have anything for her right now. But maybe she's gonna be in the Waller series. So who knows? That would be kind of cool. But I haven't seen enough to be like, oh yeah, she's done. So I wouldn't believe those rumors. I think everybody's just really basing all of that off of James Gunn deleting a tweet. And it's just I don't understand that, but it is what it is. But the last thing we're going to talk about before we go into viewer questions is something very quickly that this came out today from SnyderCon, I guess. I'm not really too sure. But Ben Affleck talked about what he wanted to do with Deathstroke in the Batman movie. And he said he wanted it to be a complex, nuanced character. So they wanted to go deep dive, making this character a badass and showing that Batman could essentially whatever Batman tried, this guy would just have the upper hand. So they wanted to make him a really good villain, which I like to hear that because that's what Deathstroke is.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on, I don't know if you saw what else came out of SnyderCon or anything else.
I wasn't paying too much attention to it. The quotes here that he's saying is says right here, there were a number of them that I was kind of exploring, and the plans were to make an interesting, nuanced, complex characters, in particular to the character you mentioned, that being Deathstroke. I kind of feel like either you do, and I'm just going to get into my own preference here, but either you do a kind of massive one villain that is so formidable that you just can't imagine how your protagonist is going to be able to overcome it, or you have to really sort of pop populate kind of, Injustice, these big group villains, where you have to get all these different characters. So he felt that the only options for a Batman movie were you get one really badass, like complex villain, or he would have had to go the route of like getting all of the Batman's rogues going against him. I think that would have been the very wrong decision.
Yeah.
To just like lay it all out on his very first movie in the DCEU. The idea of a complex Deathstroke. I said this right before we started recording, and one of the main reasons why I would be okay with talking about this is for the fact that we've seen Deathstroke in animation, we've seen him in animated movies, and we've seen him twice in live action television.
Yeah.
One being in Titans, the other one being in Arrow. The character has been touched upon a lot within DC TV and animation, but he hasn't really been explored in like his psyche and everything else. It's all been really surface level. So I would have loved this. If you really complicate things with him, I would love a Deathstroke that you almost want to agree with when it comes to his reasonings on hunting Batman or hunting down whoever, like the idea, and I don't know if this is an actual story, but I could totally believe it, but like Deathstroke getting a bounty for a pedophile, right? And him like hunting down a pedophile, you're like, fuck yeah, like go kill him, do whatever, and then like then you have Batman like saving that person, and you're like, oh well, that complicates things because yes, Batman doesn't think everybody should die, the justice system, all this, and then you as a viewer are like, well shit, what's going to happen here? Like who am I supposed to agree with at this moment? I want a story like that. Not necessarily the pedophile thing, but just the complication of like Deathstroke is a bad guy. Like give him the Walter White complex. The hey, you're the main character, but you're not the hero.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be a good story. Although I do think Ben Affleck thinking that you need to have a bunch of villains to be formidable to Batman is obviously he hasn't read a lot, because I think anybody in the Rogues Gallery can be formidable to Batman, even though he has beat all of them. So I think that was kind of I agree, would have been a really bad thing for him to do. But I also think he just hasn't read enough comics, because he probably thinks that you need to have all these characters to do that. But yeah, I think that would have been really cool. I mean, it does seem like the Deathstroke stuff would have been awesome. I mean, as I would have been curious on how that would have happened in a raid style story, though. Because if we're not mistaken, the original premise of this was that it was going to take place in Arkham Asylum the whole time.
Yeah, well, there was so many things that were evolving at that moment. Because we had heard that the Batman movie was almost going to be like a raid type of scenario, and then they're like, oh well, no, actually, it's going to be a Deathstroke series that is more like a raid type of situation. And then they kind of evolved they mutated the two together. So it was very, very complicated. But I think what would have happened is that because you can't have, well, I guess you can have a movie because plenty of movies have done it before, but like you wouldn't have had all of your screen time just on Batman. You would have had these moments alone with Deathstroke where he is contemplating on things, and that's where you get a lot of the inner psyche of Deathstroke. And I think that's how you would have gotten it.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, would have been cool, but we're never going to get it. Ben Affleck's never going to be Batman again. And it doesn't seem like he wants to be a part of that, which is very surprising that he would go to a Snyder Con. Like
my thing is the tickets were all for charity. Like everything that you purchased, like I think like a quarter of it went to charity. So it was a charity event.
A quarter of it only went to a charity?
No, of every purchase within SnyderCon.
Oh.
Yeah, so
it wasn't all for charity then.
So like vendors and stuff could still sell things and still make a profit off of it, but their earnings, a part of it had to go to suicide prevention. Yeah.
Interesting.
But I think more so it was just like, hey, I'm kind of done with this. I'll just answer a question or two, and then I'll be on my way. Because I don't think the Q&A was very long.
Yeah. I just don't see, after all of these years, how do you still come up with questions for these people that you don't already know the answers to?
I don't know how they do it, man.
Yeah. It's Snyder. I used to like you, man, but I swear to God, you make me hate you more and more every year. Because just come out and be like, I'm done with it. Like, I'm tired, guys. I'm not gonna do SnyderCon anymore. Like, that's my life's past. Like, you know what I mean? It's just annoying. He's just keeping it alive to be spiteful, I think. Which I understand.
Well, not only like, also like, let's be honest with you, like with everybody. I think SnyderCon also helps hype up his own personal projects that are outside DC and WB, like Netflix. But that's the thing, though. Like, you're only hitting your hardcore fans. You're not pushing it to the general audience at all. And I think that's going to hurt him a lot.
Yeah, because you're not hearing CBR talk about Red Moon or Rebel Moon or whatever. They're talking about what he said about Jeff Johns. And it's like, and that particular thing, whether you're somebody that's on the sidelines that likes Snyder and Jeff Johns, that doesn't make Snyder look good, in my opinion. Like, it's like, oh, you're just talking shit about that and not moving on. Like, you're Ray Fisher. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I just want that to be over. Like, every time something pops up on my Twitter, mute instantly. And I swear to God, they come up with new hashtags every day. Because I can't mute fast enough. Yeah. But anyways, that is all we got for the news there. We are going to end with a bunch of viewer questions. First being from Discord, which is Arwitz. What is your top 3 most ridiculous Batman moments from the comics? Well, there's this comic book called Batman 135 that just came out. It's a legacy issue named 900. And there was this moment where this new character, Red Mask, basically created all of the Jokers. So that is one of my most ridiculous moments in comic books. As for the other two, I mean, I think Zdarsky could take all 3. I don't want to do that, though. I would also say Batman Falling from the Moon is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Odyssey has to take one at some point.
I was gonna say that all of Odyssey is my first.
Batman gets shot straight in the face and he has a magical shield over his mouth. Yeah. Like, it's kind of written in comic books that although you see his mouth, he has a clear shield over it. You would think that would be filled with breath and perspiration. Like, yeah. And how do you talk through that? Like, that was ridiculous. What's another super ridiculous moment? Because we could just give it to all of Odyssey because Odyssey is out there.
I remember you reading Odyssey for the first time. That was funny.
It was hard to get through. I mean, it's like there is stuff like Crisis on Infinite Earths that's just old and hard to get through, you know? And then there's just stuff that's like bad and crazy that's hard to get through. And, you know, I do try to read as much Batman as possible because there are, even in the most ridiculous Batman stories, I think sometimes there's like a good little thing that you can pull from that story that is cool. And you can be like, oh, I could use that for a future book or something, right? Yeah. And so yeah, I think it's pretty wild. The third most ridiculous thing, maybe Blue Future Batman from Tynan's run.
Ooh, yeah.
That was pretty ridiculous with Snow Cone and Snow Bob or whatever the hell their names were. That was pretty ridiculous. I'm sure there's a lot. We're just not thinking about them.
All-Star Batman, Frank Miller.
Oh, yeah, a lot of that. Yeah. Depending on what you want to do there. Yeah, there was one moment where, like, in All-Star Batman where they painted themselves gold for some reason to fight or to do something. That was really weird. Yeah, I don't know, man. That was there's a lot of crazy Batman moments. I mean, like I said, it's like Fast and the Furious sometimes. Like, Batman has those kind of moments too. That's why Vin Diesel's more Batman than Batman. But yeah, I don't know. There's so many, but I could give recently all 3 of them to Zdarsky. Easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just as like a quick, like I would say Odyssey, All-Star Batman, and then Batman 900, for everything that happened there. But I did a quick search, for most ridiculous things in Batman comics. There is the time Batman created a backup personality, being Zern Raw.
Yeah.
There is the time Batman protected his secret identity with the power of trolling. It says here.
Oh yes, I've read that. Yeah.
I'm trying to see which.
I forgot what book it was.
It was a Grant Morrison book,
of course.
But he basically is in a chat room. Like Bruce Wayne is in a chat room, like throwing out conspiracy theories on Batman's secret identity.
Yeah.
So there's that. The time Batman wandered a wasteland with Joker's head. Do you remember that story?
My god, I forgot about that shit. I hated that ending too. It was me all along.
Batman, the last night on Earth.
God, dude, Snyder really fell off.
The time Batman fought Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, that was goofy. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Wait, was that the Tom King story or the Looney Tunes story?
This was the let's actually see. It doesn't say specifically.
Does it look like does it show art? Is it the Looney Tunes art?
It's not the Looney Tunes art, so it must be the Tom King story. Okay. Yeah.
Those stories were actually kind of cool because it wasn't just Tom King that did that, but I think Tom King won an award for his.
Yeah.
But there was like a Luthor one, there was a Tweety Bird one. Those are some pretty good ones. But yeah, there's like some ridiculous moments. And then you can get into like the fucked up moments and shit too. Like I was just telling Clay that I saw a short recently about like fucking the 2 times Nightwing was raped. And I'm like, I forgot about that shit. I remembered one of them. I didn't remember the original one, which I forgot. I already forgot the character's name. But he was that chick Tarantula or something that she kills Blockbuster. And then like she takes advantage of Nightwing after that. Some wild ass shit, man. Crazy stuff.
Like there's freaking when Batman gets sent back through time for freaking the Darkseid Omega beams. Jeff Johns making him a god on the freaking Mobius chair. Like there's just so many things that Batman has gone through that's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and that's when you don't mind the idea of retconning certain things, like because like nothing's ever gonna stay the same, right? People are like, oh yeah, they changed this, like that's continuity. I'm like, dude, if we're going all the way back to day one, Batman was kind of fucked. Because I thought about this one time. Have they ever made a joke about somebody wearing the original bat suit, like and Batman coming across them, just being like a deranged guy? Have they ever done that?
I don't think so.
Because I always thought about that. I was like, I need to research that if that's ever been done. Because that seems like such an easy shout to the OG. Like just some guy on a rooftop be like, I'm Batman, like in his fucking underwear with the red suit and stuff. And maybe Batman saves him or something. And he's like, you need to go back to Arkham, that would be kind of cool. But anyways, don't steal that Chip. Fucking, that's mine, Chip. Although he's probably gonna do it. I did this. But make it a million times worse. He created that Batman too, probably. All right, going on from there, we got some stuff over on the UB Tubes. Metallica says, I heard a rumor that Jason Momoa hangs dong in Fast X. This got me thinking, what is the weirdest Batman rumor you ever heard? Cocaine Joker was pretty.
I was literally about to say the craziest rumor that had everybody freaking out was the idea that the white makeup was actually going to be cocaine on Joker's face throughout the entire movie. Yeah. That is a pretty wild rumor.
Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz fucking on the Batmobile. That was a wild one. That was a wild one. What else?
Shit.
I'm trying to think of if there was like any other wild Batman rumors. Because the thing that sucks is when it comes to comics, the rumors are usually true. You know, like Tom King leaving Batman, there being a black Batman, like all of those big rumors that have come out have all been real.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say. So it always has to be like a movie. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, the rumor of Joker 2 being a musical seems kind of real.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think Cocaine Joker was definitely one of the craziest ones. Well, something was coming out with the rumors of what was going to happen in the DCEU. And wasn't there a crazy Batman one a part of that list? Wasn't Nightwing going to be Batman or some shit? And like,
I'm trying to remember, because speaking of rumors that started the DCEU, you know, the old rumor, I think it was Young that posted it in the Discord. It was confirmed by Snyder at SnyderCon.
Yeah.
But this rumor went all the way back to 2014. And I said I hated it then and I hate it now. That all of the gods, freaking Zeus, Hades, like all of them were actually going to be descendants of Kryptonians.
Yeah.
Which was going to make Wonder Woman a Kryptonian.
Yeah.
And there's like, I still remember like the little freaking picture that the Screen Rant article pushed out there in 2014 with I think it was Adam Hughes's Wonder Woman, and her tiara had the Superman symbol on it. And I was like, I fucking hate it. Like, no, you're not gonna make her Kryptonian. This is fucking stupid. Blah, 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 blah,
I would have hated that.
Yeah.
I don't know how Snyder Bros like. Did they love that?
I from what I remember, a lot of people hated it. I don't remember a whole lot of people saying that they.
But that's before the movie came out, right? Like, I wonder how the reception was at SnyderCon.
Well, I mean, the entire rumor of Ben Affleck getting the role of Batman, like that was universally hated
too. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I hated that. But then I was like, well, and then I got proven wrong. So, yeah, I have no problem with that. I never have a problem being proven wrong. Although I don't think you could ever get me on board with the Kryptonian thing. Like, there's nothing you could do for me to be like, that was cool. Unless it's an Elseworld story where they're like brother or sister, maybe. But then what the fuck about Kara? Like, that's fucked up. Like, it's just, I just don't think I could ever be on that. But yeah, that would be the most ridiculous or weirdest rumors right there. Nathan says, would you rather have a 2-second line in a DC blockbuster or be the main lead in a DC dumpster fire? Why? P.S. Congrats on 1K views on the last episode. Way to go. I don't know if you, not the last episode technically, but the previous, the Russo one, we got over 1,000 views. So
woohoo! All right.
For a podcast, that's actually really good. Let's
see here. A 2-second line in a DC blockbuster or a 2-second line in a DC dumpster fire. I'm not the greatest actor.
Lead in a DC dumpster fire. So you're the focal point.
Oh, okay. So be either 2-second line in a blockbuster, or I'm the lead in a horrible movie.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to lean into my strengths, I'm not a good actor. So, like, if it's already going to be a dumpster fire, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
But if you also want to lean into my strengths, I am a podcaster. If I just had 2 random lines in a DC blockbuster, I think that would be the way to go.
Yeah. So this is how I come down to the thought process of it. Name me a 2-second line person in a blockbuster movie that is really iconic.
Oh, shit.
Because they're usually the lead. That's a problem.
You think so? Okay. I'm going to have to do some research on this.
The only person that I can think of that would be, and it's not even, this person wasn't a 2-second line, but they didn't have a lot of content, is Samuel L. Jackson in Jurassic Park. Hold on to your butts. That's really iconic. But he was in the movie still as kind of like a supporting cast member for a bit until he got eaten.
Yeah.
Spoilers if you haven't watched it in 40 years or 30 years, whatever it's been out for.
Yeah.
But I don't know of a 2-second line person in a blockbuster like superhero movie that says like one thing or something like that.
Oh, shit.
You know what I mean? like that people remember, you know? Because like there's plenty of people that have 2-second lines, but are they memorable? That's my thing. But here's the thing. People remember dumpster fires. People remember the Mario movie. You know what I mean? People remember George Clooney's Batman. So I think I'd rather be the lead in a dumpster fire. Because here's the thing. Dumpster fires can become cult classics.
That is true.
And so I think I would go with the dumpster fire. Because even if it's so trash, you can still go to cons and people would be like, dude, how did you take that role? Like, what was like your thought process? How was the like scenes? Like, how did you do that? And then you could just live off of fucking going to cons and being like, I was in that shitty Batman movie, you know? So I would do that.
You would forever just be like a Power Ranger. Just
yeah.
Like, basically,
hey, man, they seem to be fine. They seem to be doing fine. So, yeah. Pretty crazy.
That's
stuff.
Hilarious.
So moving on, Eduardo de la Cruz. My mother's name is also who would win. Joker versus Ra's al Ghul. Condiment King versus Sneeko. The Signal versus Reaper. Now, do you know who Sneeko is?
I have to look it up again. Hold on.
So I have to explain it because you're going to be able to look up Sneeko and not really probably understand who Sneeko is. You might have seen his face, but he's one of these Andrew Tate bro dudes. So
that's the first thing that pops up. I'm gonna have to wipe my history.
I will say this is probably the most formidable competition or the most equal competition, and I have to explain some stuff about Sneeko with Condiment King first, because here's the thing. Sneeko had this thing with Moist Critical, who's one of my favorite characters. And he was all like talking about like, yo, I got your clips right here. It was this like famous thing where he pulled out a gun and he had his clips for his gun. And Moist Critical came back at him in this video and was like, hey, dumbass, these are not clips. They're fucking magazines. Like he was showing him like gun etiquette. And like people went off on that. And they were like, oh, fuck. Because Moist Critical had like an AR-15 and shit. Like he's like, these are magazines compared to this little gun that Sneeko had. So like Sneeko has a gun that I guess he could use against Condiment King, but he doesn't even know how the gun functions because he calls them clips and not magazines. Granted, that could be lingo. But also, the one biggest thing you need to know about Sneeko, Clay, is not that he's just an Andrew Tate fan. Do you know what Cuties is? The movie? So Cuties was that Netflix movie that was very controversial because it was those little children cheerleaders that had all the sexual content.
Yes. Okay.
That's his favorite movie. So there's that. And also, Sneeko has openly admitted to watching his girlfriend get fucked. So he's a cuck. And it didn't happen once. Multiple times. He's admitted to that. So Sneeko is a guy that likes Cuties, which is what some people say is a pedophile-ish film, if you're watching it. He likes to see his girl get fucked. He likes Andrew Tate. And he calls magazines clips. So that's what is going up. And also he threatens to fight people like Moist Critical, who says they would never fight because Moist Critical is like 5'6". And he's like, I know I'd get my ass kicked. He was like, but it's not going to keep me from talking shit about you. Yeah. But there's other people that want to fight Sneeko and he's running away from them. So this is the most equal fight I think Condiment King could ever be in.
I think this is the one fight that I may give it to Condiment King.
It's the one I would not defend Sneeko here. So like I would, if I had to pick between these two guys, I'm going for Condiment King.
Eduardo, you've done it. You've done it, man.
I can't believe it took Sneeko for that, though. Like, because it's not necessarily like, because like if tomorrow, if it comes out that Sneeko shot somebody, like I instantly have to change my answer. I'm like, oh, Sneeko wins. He killed somebody. Like, I'm sorry. But as of right now, I think this is the most equal. Like Aunt May would beat Sneeko's ass or Condiment King's ass. But I'm not even necessarily saying Condiment King would win. I just don't want to root for Sneeko.
Yeah.
And I would go Condiment King. So you've done it, Eduardo. I don't know how long it took. I don't know how long we've been doing this, but I would. again, not saying that he would win. I don't want to root for Sneeko. So like I would go
hilarious.
Condiment King. I think Joker fucking bodies Ra's al Ghul, but Ra's al Ghul comes back every time, so it doesn't really matter. But so does Joker, kind of. So I think Joker bodies him. And Reaper probably beats Signal, I think.
But they have the same power.
The Overwatch power? We're talking about Overwatch Reaper, right?
Yeah, they have darkness power.
Well, Signal has light power now, though, didn't? Or no, he has darkness power.
Yeah,
he had light power.
Yeah,
but he also fucking Reaper twists and spins and shoots like crazy. So I just don't think Signal's getting out of the way of that. You know what I mean? I would go Reaper just because Signal, I feel like, unfortunately, writers have not done him well. To be like, he can be. He's usually gotten saved by a lot of people. So
that
I
is
would go
true.
with that.
And I didn't read any of like the future outsider stuff that they had done.
Yeah, the future state
like
had
where he had like an energy sword. Do you remember all that?
Yeah. But he also didn't wear his helmet, which is kind of weird. I didn't like that. Like his helmet's actually cool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyways, Moncray, would you rather have Ezra Miller, Oscar Morgan, or Chip Zdarsky on the podcast? Who's Oscar Morgan?
Oscar Morgan. Let's do a quick search here.
Yeah, I don't know who Oscar Morgan is. I'm curious on
Oscar. Oh, so Oscar Morgan is the British actor who is Turner Hayes in the hit CW series Gotham Knights.
Oh, he'd actually be the least person I would want on the podcast, to be honest. Because here's the thing, like, if I have Ezra or Chip Zdarsky on this podcast, I'm asking them hard questions. Like, I'm not throwing softballs at these guys. Like, Chip Zdarsky, I am asking him, why did you make this decision? Like, was this 100% your idea? I was like, I don't agree with it.
Yeah,
you know?
like one thing that Juice has always thrown my way is, hey, if you were to ever be in front of Brian Michael Bendis, you wouldn't be a complete asshole in front of him, would you? And I said no, because I would just never go in front of him and talk to him. Like for Chip to be on our podcast, like we wouldn't just be like, hey, you dumb fuck, like no, like we understand that writers have to go through certain things with their writing and decisions and all these other stuff. They have to jump through hoops, they have to go through editors, so a lot of the decisions that he makes may also be twisted through DC Comics itself, and we would like to know that.
I think I would, and I don't think this is disrespectful to do this. Some people might see it that way, but I would be like, hey Chip, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of your run, but I would like to have a conversation about it and be like, I'm just curious about some of the decisions you made, if they were 100% your decisions, all that kind of stuff. I think I would go with Chip out of all of these, to be honest, because I would want to know, like, why, like, what were you thinking, like, in this process? Like, what made you do this? Like, what, maybe I missed what you were trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, I would want to have that conversation. Ezra Miller, I would be like, dude, what the fuck's going on, man? Like, how have you gotten help? Like, what's going on there? Like, because some of the stuff you've been accused of is kind of fucked. And I think that's the only thing I would talk about, besides, like, could I be professional and be like, so man, the Flash is coming out. I would be like, no. I was like, look, dude, I was like, there's a lot of people that don't want you to be the Flash anymore. So we kind of need to get down to the bottom of that. And then we'll talk about the superhero shit. And then see if he goes off. Because if he goes off on us, oh man, that is podcast gold. So it's just like, Ezra Miller went off on us on our podcast, money. And then, we'll see where it goes. But I think to have an actual podcast, I would bring Chip on. Because again, I don't think Chip is a bad writer. I just think he doesn't know how to write Batman. Like, I think I'll say he's a bad Batman writer. That's as far as I'll go. But I think he's done other stuff that's great. So moving on from there, Jason Todd. How do we get underrated Bat family members, Signal, Bluebird, Cassandra Cain, etc., into the mainstream? Is the best route to put them in games, cartoons, and movies? Yeah, I would think so.
100%. I think that honestly, if that freaking YouTube channel would have gone and done the Bat Family shorts that they were going to do before they got shut down by DC Comics, I think that would have put more eyes on a lot of these characters, honestly. Because you have the short-term like viewership of like how YouTube Shorts and TikTok, like that short-term content that younger audiences really love.
Yeah.
But you have these unknown characters, so you would get more eyes on that. I think that cartoons and movies would be the best way to go.
Yeah.
And then you do the introduction into the video games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, do we really need Tim Drake and Gotham Knights? You know, you could have put Signal in there. You could have even got Damian out of there. Like, you know, have two like Cassandra and Signal, and just say Damian and Tim Drake are going to be DLC content, right?
Yeah,
like, you could have done that. I think you do stuff like that. You have to like not give people options sometimes. And just say like, oh yes, this Bat Family, they disappeared. And granted, we kind of hate those storylines, but if it's like, oh, but Batman's there and he's got a new team, like that's kind of cool. Like, because you could do like a multiverse event where like the family got sucked into a portal and you're trying to find them, right? But for now, the people that need to protect Gotham are Batman and, you know, the rest of the family. So like you could do something like that in cartoons. Because the thing about cartoons is you can do whatever you want. And at the same time, like, if it's a hit, it's a hit. If it's not, it's not, you know? I mean, look at Velma. They're getting season 2. Like, you know? Anything is possible. Let's see. Alexis Barrera, I really like the Deadpool samurai manga, which got me thinking, why hasn't DC hopped on? Would Batman be the best place would be the best person to place in manga or in other DC characters better suited?
Well, we both own, I'm pretty sure, because you got it also.
I had the first volume.
You have the first volume. There is manga that do have DC characters. So there is I have all 3 volumes of Batman and the Justice League. There is also finally coming into English print, Batman is it Batbuster or
Blackbuster? So they will be out in September on Amazon. I've already pre-ordered them. It is like Batman, Batbuster, and then it's Superman eating ramen. I don't know what the name of the title is. And then Joker, like babysitter, whatever.
Yeah. So that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. In that manga, Batman gets turned into a baby, and then Joker has to take care of him. It's an off the walls type of concept, but I thought it would be hilarious. I'm definitely going to be getting that one. And there are other characters. I think Marvel just did an initiative to put more characters out into manga. I think they're doing a Spider-Man one. I think they're doing a Doctor Strange one as well. But it's really funny. I believe, I can't remember if it was in volume 1 or volume 2 of the Deadpool Samurai, All Might shows up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will say this, and this might be a hot take. I don't think Batman translates well to manga. And I say that because manga doesn't really do the inner monologue stuff well, in my opinion. Well, certain mangas. Because it's not written like you normally would read it in American, like as a little box, and it's like, this is what the character's thinking. It's more of a like, brink, like big letters. Like, you know,
or like, it's either big letters in your face or like small letters kind of like off to the side of the panel.
Yeah. And I just don't think, because like I started reading that Justice League one, and Batman just doesn't feel as epic in manga. Although I feel like Spider-Man would be great. So, because Spider-Man could be wacky, he could actually make sense if it's in high school. Because Japan has an obsession with characters being in high school, but they're doing very adult things, which is very odd sometimes. You kind of just ignore it after a while. But it's all like, why are these middle schoolers driving cars and having gunfights? Like, is this America? But like, the thing is, I do think that Batman doesn't transfer that well. But I think other characters could. Like, I feel like, oh my God, the stretchy guy. I'm forgetting his name.
Plastic Man.
That might be a good manga. Like, I think because his character just looks like it's out of anime sometimes. I think that would be really cool. I feel like Red Hood might be well because he is like an anti-hero type of character, but I just don't. I will say I just feel like they haven't got Batman right.
So here's the thing. So there is a contraption that Scott Snyder created, the Hellbat.
Oh, yes.
That he fought against the Court of Owls, right?
Ooh, you're getting confused.
Oh no, you're right. I am getting confused.
Not the Hellbat.
That's not the Hellbat. That is
I don't even know if there's technically a name for it, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's just like he's getting into it and he's like, get the hell out of my house. But the Hellbat has a red symbol like that one had. Okay. I don't know if that has a name, to be honest.
So have you ever seen the anime Black Butler?
No, but I know of the title and I kind of know what it is, but I've never seen it.
Think of Black Butler, but with Bruce Wayne and Batman and his giant suits. You can do that, I think, in a manga or an anime. But I think when it comes to that, I think Batman translates well as a serious anime. Like you could do an anime,
for sure.
But I don't think you could do a manga.
I don't think it
does that make sense?
Well.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I just read. Do you watch the creator Giguk at all?
Giguk. No,
so remember when I told you to watch Trash Taste? Those guys.
Yeah.
So he was he had more of an accent. He's from Taiwan. So he was the like brown skin dude. He is a huge anime creator. And he does like these in-depth videos on anime. And he has one on like, is the manga better than the anime? Like he did that whole in-depth thing. And the great thing that I never really thought about is he says, and because I always think like, I hate when people say like, oh, I don't want a straight adaptation from the comic books. Like I want something different. I'm like, why? Like it's perfect. It's like right there in the book. Why wouldn't you just want that put on screen? Giguk made a really good comparison about like the one things when they do that, it's cool if you adapt every single thing, but you need to make sure that you're playing to anime strengths, right? Like the movements and the sounds and everything that comes with that the manga doesn't have. Remember when we went to go watch Demon Slayer and we got gypped according to everybody that said that went to go watch it? Remember that awesome scene when the ninja guy had got his arm chopped off and then they're doing the musical notes and he runs through everything. It's this epic fight scene, ends up like cutting half the dude's head off. Then Tanjiro comes in and fucking cuts the rest of his head off. Like that epic scene, it's 1 page in the manga, Clay. That whole scene, that whole epic major fight scene that's probably won awards is like a page in the manga.
Jesus Christ.
So like they added all of that extra shit to make it epic. And that's what he talks about in the manga. He was like, that is anime played to its strengths. And it made that particular page the most amazing thing you'll see in anime. You know what I mean? And so that could be a big benefit to a Batman show, right? Like Batman having these epic fight scenes, but you can't really do a lot of that stuff in the manga, you know? And I think that's what American comics do really well is showing progression. Some writers do it better than others, but like Tom King loves to show the progression of something, right? Like the best thing you could do is the minute-long fight between Reverse Flash. He's just getting his ass beat for a minute over like 8 pages of just like seconds or whatever, which is crazy. So I think DC characters could work in manga. I just don't think it's been perfected yet. So I would love to see a Justice League Gundam. I know they made a comic book of it, but a Gundam anime. I think it would be kind of awesome. So,
breaking news:
mm-hmm.
Jim Lee, the world-renowned artist, writer, editor, and publisher, has been promoted to president, publisher, and chief creative officer at DC.
Oh, I'm glad he's not going anywhere. But I feel like he's getting to the top. Eventually, when you get to the top, you either retire there or you
fall.
Yeah. So I hope I'm glad he's Jim. I'm glad Jim has stayed there that whole time. Like, he left Image, went to DC, and he's just made it his lifelong dream to work there. Have you seen the collectibles that he was pimping out for Sandman recently? The bookshelf thing?
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty crazy. They need to do that for other characters. Like, they need a Batman cowl that you can put, it's like the sculpture of Batman's head, and you put books in it.
Well, I need to actually see, because I'm pretty sure if you go to Jim Lee's Twitter account, his profile picture is still one of the stupid NFTs that they were trying to push. Of course it is.
They're still pushing those things. I get emails all the time. Jeez. Next up, we have Tiny Beauty. Does Nightwing belong with Starfire or Batgirl? So here, I don't know if this is technically a hot take, and I know pun intended. I think Starfire's hotter, but I think he belongs with Batgirl. So I would say that.
Yes and yes.
Yeah. The one thing is a lot of people forget that Starfire for a hot minute was just a sex symbol. Like, there was literally the New 52 story where she was just fucking
Scott Lobdell made her into hey, we're just gonna have sex, and not shaming anybody who just loves to have sex.
Yeah.
But the way that he wrote her in the comic was just hey, and the why I didn't like it is because if you're gonna do that, don't make it a big deal. But he made it a big deal for the two other characters that were in the book.
Yeah.
He made it a big deal for Jason and for
Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were that's
stupid.
Yeah, it was just oh yeah, I slept with Starfire. And Starfire was like, well, we don't care on my planet. We just sleep around. And so she slept with Roy, and they were like, oh, bro, what's going on here? And Starfire, super hotter, but I think there's just so much history between Batgirl. It's like Catwoman and Batman. It's just, they're meant to be together. So first of all, I saw somebody, and this is why I really don't like following Twitter comic book pages. People that only tweet about certain things. I don't follow them, but they're on my Twitter account all the time. The Batcat poster. There's
Mia.
Mia posts a lot of great stuff about Batcat. So I like to check up on the page. I don't follow it though. But there's a Spider-Man one that has Mary Jane as the photo, and they post Batman and Spider-Man stuff, but it's always who's better. They said who's more influential, Spider-Man or Batman? And I was like, I'm not going to take that bait. I'm like, everybody, it's a Spider-Man account. So, of course, everybody's like, Spider-Man, 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 Spider-Man. And I'm just like, you're not even having an argument here. It's just, y'all are all Spider-Man stands. But anyways, they said who's more, who's better, Batcat or Brutalia, which is Talia and Bruce. And I was like, first of all, Brutalia sounds brutal, and she raped him. That should just not be even a consideration. But apparently there are people that think that he belongs with Talia. And I'm just weird. Why? Why? But there were a lot of people in the comments that are it's Bruce and Selena by a mile. It just makes so much more sense. Talia, what are her redeeming qualities is all I got to say. But anyways, moving on to the final question we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is from Clay. Which of these would have fans hyped the most? Reeves Superman / Keaton Batman crossover in the 90s, Harley titty scene in Joker 2, Deathstroke / Batman fighting at the beginning of BVS. I think the Harley titty scene wouldn't really do much because Lady Gaga's shown her boobies before. So if you want to look at them, they're on the internet. Go check them out. And that's not leaks or anything like that. She's a very artsy person. She doesn't care. She likes her body. So that's out there. A Deathstroke Batman fight, right? That has to be it.
I think so. Just because Reeves and Keaton, I think that I'm gonna say a wild thing right now. I have no idea if this will ever happen. I think in the future we will see CGI AI Reeves and Keaton in a scene before we die.
I could see it. Infinite Crisis or Crisis on Infinite Earths type thing. Yeah, I could see that happening. It can't be worse than Mustache Cavill, right? Like,
true.
You know,
but yeah, I think that will happen in our lifetime. But because the scene is always shared, because again, I'm pretty sure I've said that it's been shared multiple times on my Twitter feed. I saw it this week. The Deathstroke Batman scene from Batman Origins. Like, I think it just needs to happen, and I think that would have made people more hyped.
Yeah, because like I feel like a lot of movies don't end. I mean, there's like big fight scenes, but like depending on I feel like sometimes action movies don't play to the strengths. Like John Wick 1, right? I love that John Wick 1 just kind of ended fast. Like, he finds his target, fucks up everybody. The guy's like, hey, man, boom, and he's dead. I'm just like, that was awesome. They always let the guy talk, and he just fucking killed him. Like, that was awesome. So, like, I think with Batman, you need I don't know. The warehouse scene was great, and it was super fast-paced, but I think if he's fighting one-on-one, it kind of needs to be like a John Wick style where there's a lot of fighting. Then they take a breath. And they're like, all right, bro, this is kind of crazy. Maybe they monologue like, I'm going to kill you, Batman. Like, this is your day or whatever. And then they go back to fighting some more. Like, I think that would be kind of cool because like, it doesn't need to be this hardcore, super blockbuster fight for like 5 to 10 minutes and then it's over, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think you can have it go up and down with Deathstroke and Batman. I don't know. I could be proven wrong with the Flash, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, Endgame had a super long fight that could have done without some moments. I think we don't need the fucking Spider-Man giving up the gauntlet to the cheerleading squad, which is always the weirdest scene in that whole movie.
She's not alone.
Yeah. It's just so convoluted, man. Who was writing that? Chip Zdarsky? But yeah, anyways. Yeah, I think Deathstroke Batman, it's also BVS, right? Like, if you gave me that warehouse scene with Deathstroke in it, like, insane. So yeah, that would be definitely the most hype, I think, out of all of those. So anyways, that is it for the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, because we already covered all the comic books. Clay, you got anything going on this week, man?
This week, by the time you are listening to this, which might be a little bit earlier because we are recording this, the day that we should have been recording this, which is Thursday by the time you're listening, I am over at Star Wars Alliance live, going through Star Wars Visions Volume 2.
At what time?
I believe right before we're going to see Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's no.
You're going live early?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be early in the day. Anywhere between 10 and 1 is when probably around that time. So 10 a.m. Central Standard Time is when we will be live at Star Wars Alliance over at the Geekverse YouTube channel. We're going to be discussing Visions. Right before that, I'm going to be doing a watch along for our patrons over at the GUA. So I have a lot of stuff happening tomorrow, which is absolutely nuts.
Yeah. But Guardians is like 3 hours.
Yeah. So if you can't catch that, you can always listen to the podcast. Always go to the YouTube channel for Geekverse and watch our thoughts there. But I'm very excited for Star Wars Visions Volume 2. So go check that out before you listen to our review.
Yeah. Wait, did you not go see Guardians Friday?
I did.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. I can't tell you because I don't want to. Your rule was to not give any.
I also
insights.
Don't care about the MCU. I will say that. So, but I let's not spoil it for the audience. I didn't know if you went after all. But anyways, I am streaming Friday. So 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Definitely come hang out. And yeah, always working on shit. That's all I got to say. But that is going to be it for this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.
News Weekly.